Hey, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Garrett Smith, known as the nutrition detective around these here YouTube parts, with a special guest today. Again, we have Kelsey Kenny joining us. Hi, Kelsey.
Hi.
And today's topic is one that I've been leading up to, right? I've been teasing it and stuff like that. And we've been wanting to put this out for a while now. Oh, Joe just put the link to the Google Doc of the outline that we're going over today. We are going to debunk the whole MSG thing and show you how it's actually good for you. And we have testimonials from people are like beta testers who we trusted to do this stuff and test it out with us to show that it was good. And so let me just run over what we're going to cover today. So first we're going to go over Kelsey's kind of discovery of MSG being helpful with copper detox, and then her testimonial to it. And then we're going to go over my hesitation in it, which a lot of you in the chat are probably going, oh my God, MSG is horrible. No, it's not. That's what we've all been taught. That's what I thought too. And then my eventual realizations as I was putting together, as I learned about MSG, I was putting together what made sense to me, and then my little testimonial. And then what do we mean when we're talking about MSG? I want to clarify that first. We're not talking about the food ingredients that have MSG in them. We're not talking about junk food. Like if you're eating junk food or crap food or fatty foods and you think MSG is a problem, well, it is, because when you combine detox agents with crap food and toxins, you get worse. So when we talk about MSG, it's kind of like niacin. It's kind of like flush niacin. If you're doing a bunch of crap and you're doing flush niacin, it could make things, you could get issues. With MSG, if you're eating crap foods, of course you're going to get issues. You're eating crap food, okay? So then the first part we're going to go through is the debunking, which a lot of other people have done before. It's funny that all of us hadn't heard about it. We're going to go through the delicious parts, the good things about it for your health. Let me give you one little tease before we get there. Do you know that ALT, the liver enzyme, AST, the liver enzyme, and GGT, the liver enzyme, do you know what they all make? Do you know that they all make glutamate? So when you have high liver enzymes, your liver is making a ton of glutamate. Why is that? Do you think your liver is trying to hurt you, or do you think your liver is trying to help you? So roll that through your head. Okay, then we're going to go into directions if you choose to experiment with this, which we have, and we're enjoying the benefits, that we're going to go through how to do that. And then, actually, I forgot to say this at the start. Let me just lead into Kelsey's stuff here. Kelsey started looking into MSG because I had talked on the live streams about how difficult it was to fix zinc and copper over time. And Kelsey came to me with a serum copper of 140, which if you know serum copper numbers, like that's darn high. And we got her down to like 110 or 112 something within the first 6 months, I believe. So anyway, we can do it. We do it. But Kelsey was feeling like she still had copper toxicity symptoms. So she's a researcher. She's a brilliant woman. And she went into the research looking for things to help herself. And so then she could help others as one of our facilitators, right? That's one of her goals too. So I'm really excited about this, and I do believe that of the guys who have been doing this, I mean, it's not that it's going to help women's hormones too. You're going to see that in the testimonials. We have about 8 testimonials to go through today, so we're going to pepper those in as we go. But we're seeing impacts on hormones, both, I mean, for men and women. So you're going to want to be watching for that. So I'm just going to turn it over, Kelsey. You can go into your stuff now.
Okay, so yeah, like Dr. Smith said, I was very copper toxic, and I made myself copper toxic for various reasons. And when I heard, early on in the program, when I heard Dr. Smith talk about how difficult it was to lower copper, and he said something like vitamin A, yeah, that takes a few years, but copper, oh, that's a beast. And I was like, I've got a long road ahead of me. And I took it as a little bit of a challenge. I was like, I already kind of convinced about, well, not yet, but I already knew that niacin was good. And I had the goods to prove it. But but yeah, I still knew that my copper was super duper high. So should I share my screen?
Yeah, you can just go through the outline.
From the outline, or
yeah, there it is. Joe did it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, so niacin actually helped a lot with my EMF sensitivity. Like I would get, if Wi-Fi was turned on, or if I was in a area with like a really strong Wi-Fi, my heart would start beating. I would get extremely tired and want to take a nap. And niacin helped a lot of that. So I do think that's helpful with lowering copper as well. I might go into why it's not the ideal copper, depleter, but anyways, I found something better. And the problem was also for me getting my copper down was I did not tolerate zinc very well. It just made me want to take a nap if I took any meaningful zinc, like 3 to 4 naps a day. It was terrible. And that's one of the main ways that you can change your zinc to copper ratio. And why is zinc to copper ratio so important? Well, in every study that I've ever looked at that also looks at this ratio, that zinc being higher than the copper is really important. If the copper is higher than the zinc, it can be definitely related to severity. The more copper is prevalent, disease progression, non-remission, or even whether the condition shows up at all. And so I've been working on this for about I think a year and a half or something, on and off, just trying to figure out different things, like looking at tartaric acid and citrate and theanine and things like that. And then I came across, I was actually working on the hair growth thing, something to help with hair, and something that wasn't sticky, but was like a nutrient for hair that could provide energy. And that's where I first came upon MSG. And I kind of stepped away from it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Nobody's going to buy that. Even at one point I tried getting a consult with somebody who was convinced that MSG and various forms of it was literally the reason for autism and that kind of spectrum of neurological issues. So I really thought it was an excitotoxin, like all of you probably listening here. And then fast forward a little while later, I was slowly but surely getting things getting better with this copper thing. And again, I'm not completely healed. This is going to take a while. It took a long time intoxing myself and trying all sorts of crazy things. So it doesn't mean I was fully good to go. That zinc to copper is still really difficult. So I was doing everything right, but supplementing zinc was just a no-go for me for any meaningful amount. So I saw a while after that, I saw some detox copper protocols on the internet, and they did not look like a good idea. It was like EGCG from green tea and a ton of vitamin C, which actually makes copper do what's called Fenton reaction. So it actually creates free radicals when combined with copper. So that's not a good idea. So the hunt kind of renewed in more vigor after that. I definitely wanted to find something that an alternative to that as well. Excuse me. So let's fast forward to here. So, okay. Already talked about that. Okay. So one lingering problem that I still had, despite doing all these things, and probably also because I couldn't supplement zinc very well. I had long periods, like they could be a month long, and that happened two times or something. And vitamin K wasn't working. And it was just go on and on. I started to worry that I would actually be losing iron because I was already low ferritin. So I even took some synthetic progestin just to make it stop. But every time I would try to get off, I didn't want to be on that, obviously. the bleeding would come back, even with the vitamin K and everything. So finally, I decided to look back at my previous studies about MSG and copper detox and everything that I had been collecting. And I decided to go for it to see if it would work. Because I really felt like these periods were a copper thing. Like something about the copper was signaling my body to keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and something, it was affecting like the hormone systems or something. So I did. I took half a teaspoon in water, and then probably another half a teaspoon, so probably about 4 grams total. And the next afternoon, it finally stopped. So definitely, I was intrigued. The only problem with that is, yes, I did get some detox symptoms from that, but I was so happy. I would have done it again anytime. So that, let that be a warning. You don't necessarily have to go that high with 4 grams so soon, especially if you're not used to it. I think in one of the testimonials, we'll talk about somebody who, we warned them that could happen, and low dose was enough to, and ramping it up was enough to help their problem without going super high and getting that detox symptom. So what happened was my neck kind of got stiff for like 2 days, and I couldn't really move it, and it was painful, but I was so happy that this worked, and I was so excited. And somebody else on the program had a similar problem with bleeding like I did. So she was the first one we reached out to see if that would work for her. And luckily she was willing to do that. So that was really cool, and it worked. Low dose too. I gave her my wording about it, and she did great, and she went up low, and it helped. So yeah. And we'll read that testimonial later. Some other things that it has helped with: my mood, my muscle ratio, or whatever you call it, percent.
Body composition.
It helped with that because glutamate. Yeah, body composition. Because it can turn into a bunch of different amino acid. It's very versatile. It also my mood, my energy have gotten better, and even some of my ADHD type symptoms, which I think stem again from like the bad zinc to copper ratio and the high copper, have improved a lot. Like my sociability and my task initiation and my ability to focus and everything have gotten a lot better, because I'm fixing that zinc to copper thing. So again, it goes back to the basics, like addressing that root cause, which is that imbalance that I still had. Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you. That was great. I mean,
yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you saying something? No. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Okay. I thought I heard something. So when I was obviously, well, if you don't know, Kelsey and I are together, and obviously watching her go through these bleeding episodes was really difficult. We were worried about, anemia and all, and she's having to take iron because she's losing blood. And so it was a concern. And then she brought up, MSG to me. She brings up this study from, I think it was Russia, of a bioprotector complex. And she's showing it to me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm kind of going, okay. And she goes, but what do you think about the MSG part? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was filled full, just like with flush niacin. I was filled full of all the mainstream stuff, and I was kind of like, and I kind of, sometimes even I'll remind people, as that I respect as much as Kelsey. I'll remind other people of, like, remember how you got here. A lot of us got here because we thought we were so smart, and we found crap in the research, and then we overdosed it, and then we effed ourselves up. So I was like, you want to go and take grams of this stuff? And we had a little back and forth about it. And then I finally said, you know what? Okay. Go ahead. And I started researching it. So, and then she tried it. And then 2 days, within 1 to 2 days, everything had completely stopped. And I was like, wow.
And it's been normal ever since.
Yeah. It's been normal ever since. And then she did have that neck little torticollis, whatever you want to call it. Her neck stiffened up on one side, but then that went away within like 2 days. So I was like, okay, well, strange things happened. Good things are happening, and something else happened. So, that was my thing. So I went and I researched into it, and then I realized, okay, so I'm going to tell you guys, this was my big realization. I started looking into what foods were the highest in glutamate. Turns out, I want you to think of the American diet, especially the restaurant fast food type diets. Some of the highest sources of glutamate in the American diet: beef, cheese, tomatoes, and wheat. What is American fast food? What is American restaurant food? Beef, cheese, tomatoes, wheat. What is everybody out there craving? Because none of the restaurants want to add it to their food, and everybody's scared of it, and everybody thinks it's bad. It's been demonized as like causing autism and all these things. And so everybody's we have a taste receptor. We're going to get into that. We have a specific specialized taste receptor for glutamate we call it umami flavor. Your body wants it. And as you get more of it, actually your body will turn down your desire for it. And so I started thinking, wow, I wonder if, because the whole time on the low vitamin A diet, I had still cravings for cheese and tomatoes. And another high glutamate food is asparagus. That's finally, you guys may have heard me talk about asparagus before. I was like, I love asparagus. Like I could eat the whole thing when we make it. And I finally realized I had just been like craving glutamate. So I started getting glutamate, MSG, very simply. And all of a sudden my cravings for those foods disappeared. Like it absolutely disappeared. It's not that I don't ever want them anymore. It's just I don't think about them. It used to be like I'd go for so long and I'd be like, I feel like I need to eat this stuff. So that was a big thing.
Yeah, can I mention something?
What's that?
Can I mention something real quick?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like some of you have heard me talk about niacin, like reducing cravings for things and people being able to get off smoking and coffee and chocolate and things like that. Niacin can really help that, but there's a limit to that, and I think that was glutamate. So if you have both, if you have enough of both, then yes, I think cravings can go really down. And I think that the food industry has probably capitalized on our desire for glutamate to have this positive association with foods that aren't good for us, and high vitamin A foods and things with dyes and things like that really are bad. And I think that we'll probably get into Chinese restaurant syndrome and why that happens, but it is legally required. If you put any MSG, any amount, any tiny amount, even if it's in your natural flavors that people like, the food industry likes to hide things in, you have to label it. You have to label it. So a lot of times they'll hide it though. There's a bunch of different things, and it's not pure MSG. It's like yeast extract and other things like that. But they are still putting it in foods and not healthy foods either. And I think that creates this association. We're looking for the glutamate. We're always looking for the glutamate. And it can cause us to make some not so good dietary choices. But put in with our healthy, low toxin diet, I think it can really be an asset.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like for those of you out there who are using coconut aminos, that's why you're using the coconut aminos, is because there's some glutamate in it, and that's the flavor of it. Or else you just use salt. These things that are different, tamari or soy sauce, and all these sauces, they often have the umami taste to them, which is glutamate, which your body is asking you for. Let me just hit on this quick list. Joe, can you show my screen? Okay. So we got these. I just wanted to run through these. These are some of the umami-rich foods. So we got seaweeds, green tea. Okay, vegetables, beans, potatoes. I forgot that. I forgot to add potatoes. Potatoes are one of the other high glutamate foods in the American diet. So we got wheat, cheese, meat, tomatoes, and potatoes. Think of fast food out there. Think of why do you all of a sudden let's say you eat really clean for a while, and then all of a sudden you're dying to go to a restaurant and then you're going to pick foods that you don't normally eat because you want glutamate. So we got these vegetables, beans and potatoes, mushrooms, seafoods, generally protein foods. It's a sign, glutamate is a sign of a high protein food generally. That's what it tends to mean in nature. But it's in everything. So you can ferment things to get the umami taste, because as you break down the protein, you free up the glutamate and then you taste it. So your body then says, oh, it's here. So we got eggs and meats, dairy products, fermented products. So those of you who are having trouble staying on the diet, I'm going to tell you that adding straight MSG to your foods is going to make it easier. Okay, it's going to be easier for you. So, Joe, we can go back to this. Okay, so I just wanted to do this testimonial first. This is from Gabe Brady. He wanted to say that his workouts have been a little better, his mood has been calmer, and he sleeps a little deeper since I started sprinkling the MSG on my food about 3 weeks ago. So he's just doing sprinkling on his food. That's it. He's still doing salt. And he says, we'll continue supplementing with it moving forward and see how it goes. I forgot to add my little testimonial. So my testimonial, other than losing the cravings for those foods. So I want you to understand, like a lot of people who think they're craving dairy are not craving dairy. They're craving the glutamate that's in dairy. Okay. My testimonial, one of the things I first noticed, and I commented to Kelsey about this early on, was I said, and I want people to hear me correctly, I gained muscle. Like I noticed my weight on the scale was moving up, but I wasn't getting fatter. So as Kelsey already said, her body composition gets better. Another person that will go through her testimonial, her body composition got better. I noticed I was just holding more muscle than I ever had. I mean, I'm about 198, 200 pounds right now, and my legs are leaner than they've ever been in my life. I look in the mirror and I go, what is going on? Like I'm not working particularly hard right now. I mean, I'm not working harder than I used to. So I want you to understand what MSG is. It's sodium bound to glutamate. Glutamate is an amino acid. That's it. It is one of the most prominent amino acids in your body. And then it's sodium. And when these go into your body, when they're together, they split up right away. So you have a sodium molecule and a glutamate molecule. We're going to go over how prominent glutamate is in your body. Okay. And now for those of you who are still worried about the Chinese restaurant syndrome, Joe, our helper behind the scenes on the podcast, just wanted to add a couple of things. Joe, if you wanted to say your little statement.
Right. Thank you. So I remember eating, a bag of chips or something that had MSG in it. And then I had gotten angry afterward and I thought, oh, wow. And then I went back and looked at the ingredients and found that, and I thought that was it, confirms all this myth about MSG. And then, and I'd heard other things online, anecdotal kinds of stories about it. But so when Dr. Smith suggested this, he was doing this MSG thing, and maybe I wanted to try it, I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I added it. I've taken probably as much as half a tablespoon at a time, and I've had no reactions, like anger kinds of things, and nothing bad from it. And I think even some of my, when I get bile dumps or something like that, and I think that it's less severe. It seems more manageable. Of course, I've got all the techniques of using the charcoal and such, so I don't let that stuff get out of control. But anyway, great to say hi to everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe. Joe came out from the background. He's here. He does exist. So yeah, those were just some simple testimonials. And then, okay, I'll just keep going. So this is mine. So when you're looking at the outline, the blue stuff is mine. So I want to show that this is just the original This is the original letter to, I'm going to try to make this bigger. I'm not going to read this much, but this is the original letter to the New England Journal of Medicine. It was a letter written by a Chinese man, Chinese doctor, talking about Chinese restaurant syndrome. Okay, I could go through it, but basically this guy says, I get this symptom whenever I eat at Chinese restaurants. And then he says, I've had not heard of the syndrome until I received complaints of the same symptoms from Chinese friends of mine, both medical and non-medical people, but all well educated. We don't know where they're from. They could, this just Chinese restaurant syndrome sounds like a massive start to a propaganda campaign. So I wanted to go over, he talks about the symptoms simulate those that I have had from hypersensitivity to acetylsalicylic acid, but are milder. So he says, here's something it could be. Then he says, some have suggested it could be caused by cooking wine, which is used generously in most Chinese restaurants. Well, that contains sulfites and it's alcohol. And then he says, it might be monosodium glutamate. Okay. It could be the high sodium content. So he gives like 4 options of what it could have been. And in true propaganda form, the media grabbed onto monosodium glutamate, and Americans seem to want to think that Chinese food was therefore bad because of one letter to the New England Journal of Medicine. So now I'm going to go over, we're going to go over the I don't know if it's Ajinomoto or Ajinomoto. I have not looked it up. So if anybody knows how to say it, if it's Ahi or Ajinomoto, let me know. But I wanted to go over this page from them. First identified by Tokyo scientist Dr. Kikune Ikeda in 1908. While enjoying a bowl of traditional Japanese seaweed broth called kombu dashi, he noticed the dashi's savory taste was distinct from the 4 basic tastes of sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. So he called it umami, which means essence of deliciousness. Can you imagine thinking that something that is called essence of deliciousness is that we want, that we crave, is bad for us? After days of studying varied seaweed, he found that the taste of umami could be attributed to glutamate, a naturally occurring amino acid, which is also present in the human body and myriad foods, that means lots of foods, such as tomatoes, mushrooms, aged cheeses, cured meats, onions, and seafood. To bring this umami taste to everyone in a convenient and affordable way, Dr. Ikeda combined naturally occurring glutamate with 1 part sodium, resulting in monosodium glutamate. So that mono there, let me explain this let me finish this. By 1909, MSG was patented and commercialized as Ajinomoto to become the world's first umami seasoning. Okay, for those of you out there who are like, monosodium glutamate, mono just means 1. 1 sodium to 1 glutamate. You know when you go out and you buy magnesium bisglycinate, it's 1 magnesium and 2 glycinates. They just named it that way. So do you think magnesium bisglycinate is bad because of the mono? I swear that mono was put there to scare people away from it. You don't call it monosodium chloride, right? Or dihydrogen monoxide for water. So this MSG thing, it all just looks like a setup. And they're using it against especially Westerners because Asians will not give it up. And you're going to understand why when I go through that research. So let's go into, Kelsey found this link. Let's go into this one. Yeah. So they did a study seeing if MSG was a trigger for headaches, because MSG was listed in a certain book or in the International Classification of Headache Disorders as a triggering factor for headaches. So in the study, 385 individuals suspected MSG as the triggering factor, like Joe did. Joe thought it was bad, while 347 did not. Among the 227 people with analyzable data, so they couldn't use everybody, MSG was found to be associated with increased risk for 7 people, 3%, decreased risk for 2 people, and no association for 218 people. Quoting him, contrary to the widespread expectations of our study subjects, like anybody out there who expects to feel bad from MSG, like Joe did, the data reveals that foods containing chocolate, MSG, and nitrates are rarely associated with migraine attacks, and surprisingly, for a minority of individuals, they may be associated with a lower risk of attack. Related update, in January 2018, the International Headache Society removed MSG from its list of causative factors for headaches. Previously, MSG had been listed as a substance attributable to headaches in the Society's International Classification of Headache Disorders. Now, in the ICHD 3rd edition, based on the latest scientific evidence, MSG has been removed from this list. Sorry, I didn't zoom. Sorry about that, Joe. So we have testimonials about headaches. Like, right, Joe got angry. We have other people who say they get headaches. Kelsey, we're going to leave it to you now to go into the part about how this whole excitotoxicity and the excitotoxin nonsense started. So over to you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the second most abundant amino acid in the body got pegged as excitotoxin. So I guess we just have this huge amount of toxin circling through our blood all the time. And then when we get exposed to a toxin, our liver, our AST, ALP, and GGT go up to make more. Or when there's low oxygen, the body tries to make more glutamate as a form of energy as well to feed what's called the citric acid cycle. I guess the body doesn't know what it's doing. Actually, this is a very conserved throughout. Even bacteria do this when they're encountering copper stress or heavy metal stress. They will make extra glutamate to deal with that, to burn as energy without having a lot of oxygen and creating a lot of free radicals. And sometimes glucose burning can be impaired, and that requires oxygen. And if you add oxygen, you're going to create more free radicals too. So it's an alternative source of energy. I also believe that it helps bind and stabilize heavy metals if there's any free ions going around. So this is actually a protective substance. So it seems like, starting with this paper here that this Dr. James Olney, let me open that. Open link.
Oh, click. Yeah, you got it. Okay.
All the other research kind of all this other research kind of dogpiled on this this one paper. I thought I had the full paper here.
Full paper was underneath it. It's there.
Oh, right. Okay, that's right. Sorry, I'm not usually on live streams, and I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, there it is. Yes. Okay, let's open that link. So, why would plants and bacteria and everything make more glutamate if they're under toxicity stress? That's very interesting. So this is the original article. Let me see if I can make it bigger.
You may not be able to make
Dr.
it bigger.
James Olney wrote. What?
You may not be able to make it bigger.
Oh, okay. All right, that's okay. So basically what he did was he claimed he's the first one to call it an excitotoxin back in, when was this written? Like 1969. So just like right after the Chinese restaurant syndrome, a letter to the editor. And what he did was an experiment. So he gave them gave some mice just born, like 2 days after, straight up injections of a huge amount of MSG. And then they didn't have any control mice. That was the problem. Okay. So yeah, 48 hours after a single subcutaneous dose of MSG. And then they didn't do a control. That's the problem. They didn't inject the other mice, the control mice, with something else too. You want to make, when you do an experiment, you want to make your experimental group and your control group almost like exactly alike as possible, except for one factor. And they didn't inject the control mice with anything. Like, they should have injected it with like water or sodium chloride or salt. Or something like that. So that's the start of the first problem. I'm surprised that that nobody noticed that. And then also the way they were killed was interesting. They used where is it? So yeah, 20 animals received subcutaneous injections of MSG. The 18 controls received no treatment. Okay, so obviously being injected with a large amount of something is a big trauma too. So that can cause damage as well. And then they dissected so they got killed. And then they looked at their brains and saw, damage from this. The way they were killed also is very telling as well. Let's see if I can find it here. Single subcutaneous dose.
Stupid desk.
Okay. Oh, glutaraldehyde. Okay, glutaraldehyde. What does that sound like? That's an aldehyde. Okay, so what caused the damage? Was it the glutamate or was it the glutaraldehyde? We all know that aldehydes are bad, and glutaraldehyde would be a toxic version of glutamate, I believe. That doesn't really normally get made in the body. So it could have been the glutaraldehyde that was actually doing the real damage. Usually in these kind of studies, you want to just decapitate the mouse. They even have you can buy little mouse decapitators for your science lab or whatever, and that's usually the better way to do it. But yeah, so his choices here were just terrible. And the ironic thing is, so that's all I have to say about that. But the real ironic thing is this doctor that all the later research about neurotoxicity kind of dogpiled on, he later died of lung cancer and acute amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. So that is a nerve disease. That is one of the things he claimed that glutamate toxicity caused, and he campaigned against aspartame and MSG. Aspartame probably, we're not going to start saying that's good or anything. He was probably right on that, but really wrong on the MSG as being causative of neurological disease. So we'll just look at this real quick, just so I'm not joking here. So this is the doctor. He studied neurotransmitters in the brain and how they can become toxic and overexcite the cellular receptors that he termed excitotoxicity. It was later found to be involved in nerve cell degeneration and traumatic brain injury. Well, in traumatic brain injury, you don't get a lot of oxygen. The body doesn't want to bring a lot of glucose in, so it makes more glutamate to burn basically, and to protect itself against free radicals and other things coming out. But then they blame the glutamate. It's like blaming the firefighters and arresting the firefighters who show up to fight the fire. So it's really a case of they're at the, what do they call it? Wrong place, wrong time, right? And let's see what else. Okay, yeah. So basically that's it. He died of ALS, which is a nerve disease, and a lot of papers after his original one claimed that ALS was due to glutamate and way too much glutamate. So that's interesting, and obviously he probably was avoiding glutamate the entire time, and he still got that. So that is one thing. Okay, so
yeah, now we get to do some testimonials.
So I guess we'll read a testimonial now.
Yeah, you have I think you have 3 or 4 testimonials to go through. Yeah, these were the people that you started on MSG.
Oh, right. Okay, all right. So here's one from somebody. I've been this was one of the early adopters or users of it that trusted me with this wacky idea I had. So when I first started MSG, I already spent 3 years trying to get my copper levels under control. And that ties in with what Dr. Smith had said earlier about copper being very difficult to get down and to get your ratio better. My blood test kept coming back with high serum copper no matter what I did. But after a couple of months on MSG, for the first time, those numbers started to drop. It's definitely a slow journey. Well, it's much faster now, thank goodness. But I can honestly say I feel and see the progress. My sleep has gotten way better. I used to wake up at 3 a.m. wide awake and unable to get back to sleep. Now most mornings I make it till 5 or 6 a.m., which is a huge improvement. Even my smallest pinky toe, which was barely growing and had shrunk to half of its normal size, almost where it should be. I've got more energy these days, and I'm able to focus instead of spinning my wheels on the same negative thoughts. So it can actually improve your mood, and it's not actually going into the brain. So that is one thing. In newborn baby mice, it probably will. But it signals your vagus nerve. So There's your vagal nerve in the stomach, and if you don't know this already, that has to do with the parasympathetic nervous system, and that ties in. Like, you've tasted the glutamate in your tongue. That's a signal that your body has protein. It allows, more digestion to happen if there's protein in there, only if there's protein, and allows you to digest your protein better and absorb the amino acids from it better. And it also is a safety signal too. So if you have protein, like back in the day when protein could be scarce sometimes, that was a sign that you could rest and digest, which is the parasympathetic nerve, and you could calm down because you found your protein. Like it's very dangerous to go low protein, and Dr. Smith has talked about that many times, about a lot of deficiencies actually being straight up protein deficiencies. So that was definitely a signal, and that's, I think, why we have that umami taste receptors, those umami taste receptors, to specifically look for that, because it is such a versatile amino acid, and it is involved in helping detox and being an alternative fuel source for the cells as well during times of stress. Also, so this guy, he also was kind enough to provide blood tests too, and he got his serum copper down 30 points, and he also got his zinc up too. I don't remember how much he got his zinc up, but it's almost to where it's kind of finally crossed the teeter-totter, which is great. But he wasn't supplementing any zinc at the time, which is amazing. So his zinc went up without supplementing zinc. And what I believe that is that the glutamate helps you absorb your zinc, and it helps you excrete copper. So I might have time to talk more about that and how it kind of interacts in the stomach and allows you to detox heavy metals. But we'll just move on.
Yeah,
well,
we're going to do a second episode on
we'll
MSG and the finer points that Kelsey wants to go over. So this is just going to be a long one anyway.
Yeah, so I can explain the.
Yeah, you can explain all that.
I'll explain the dorky stuff later. We'll just talk about the.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's from Total Diff. Some of you might know him on the network. We had him try it as well. Thanks for the MSG hint. From studies I saw, it had good effects below 800 for my weight. I found 500 to be milligrams to be perfect for me. So again, you don't have to go high dose on this, like I did. Some people may need to go a little bit higher, but not always. It really helps with my dopamine production, and yes, that's true. It does help with that and helps protect dopamine in the brain and other neurotransmitters too. I can work now more without getting exhausted. It's crazy that my body couldn't regulate this on its own in the past years, but I was also heavily damaged. I always said my 90-year-old brain was captured in a 25-year-old body. It was a hard time in the past and very hard to survive. There's no pension for your sick young people to take a break for recovery. That's true. I can recall dreams better without getting vivid dreams, like from toxic B6. I need only 6 hours of sleep now, where it was 8 to 9 before. The difference is crazy, actually. It's even a little hard to adapt to my usual routines. Well, that's a nice problem to have. If you wait, I might be able to tell you if it helps against keratoconus, which is an eye condition. I do this together now with eye massage and red light therapy, and it seems to work well for that. I can tell in this short time frame. Yeah, it was interesting. I came across a study that said that looking at the sun, as some people do, to kind of reset their circadian rhythm and get the benefits from that and everything, that actually increases glutamate in the eye. So it is kind of like that's literally like the mechanism. And I don't know if you could just put MSG eye drops or something to replicate that or anything. I don't think so. But that's actually literally what it's doing, and that's the signal that it's giving. Okay, there's another testimonial here. Okay, so Beth, we also had Beth Martin's try it. You guys might know her. She's in the chat right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say she was in the chat. I was just saying she was in the chat too, so yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Over the few months of using MSG, 2 pinches with meals every day. How much is 2 pinches again? I always forget this one.
Well, if it's
I usually have my milligram scale.
I think the measured pinch is a 1/4 teaspoon. I think if you're talking about the measurement pinch, it's a 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, I don't know if she's describing just a pinch of her own. So either way. Okay, we're not sure. Maybe Beth can clarify in the chat.
2 pinches with meals every day, I noticed the main benefits. One is greater mental acuity and ability to work more quickly without getting distracted, even when there are many elements at once. The second is I now remember my dreams much more vivid, which is helping me be more aware of unconscious programming that gets expressed so it could be released. And my low-level rash on my arms and legs went away. So yeah, it's really good for skin too. Yeah, we won't get into it, but it actually, a metabolite of it is literally a natural moisture factor in your skin. So that can really help, similar to hyaluronic acid. So it really helps with skin and hair and all that. I mentioned earlier that I had considered it for my hair growth formula stuff at one point too. So it is an energy source for the skin cells as well. Okay, all right, your turn.
Okay, my turn. Okay, so here we go. This is going to be a long page. I'm trying to make this, let me go and make this bigger. This page, so this was back in 1994, and they were examining the myths, the IFIC review on MSG, examining the myths, 1994. There it is. So I'll hit on some of these. I won't go into detail on all of them. You guys can go to this page. It's linked in there. But what is MSG? Sodium salt of glutamic acid. So it's sodium plus glutamic acid. Glutamic acid or glutamate, they usually just say glutamate in the research, is one of the most common amino acids found in nature. It must be terrible for us. It is the main component of many proteins and peptides and is present in most tissues. Maybe you might start to wonder about the American and Western fear of MSG might be driving all of our diseases more than other countries, okay? Glutamate is also produced in the body and plays an essential role in human metabolism. Virtually every food contains glutamate. It is a major component of many protein-rich food products, such as meat, fish, milk, and some vegetables. In the early 1900s, scientists isolated the ingredient MSG in plants that was responsible for greatly enhancing flavor. Let me just say something real quick. Asian populations have been eating tons of glutamate for many years, and MSG was invented in, it came on the market in 1909, and then in 1960 something, the Chinese restaurant syndrome came around. Do you think it took Chinese people, Japanese people 60 years to realize that they got headaches from eating MSG in their foods? They prepared their foods to make
they even have it on the tables.
Yeah.
In some countries.
Oh yeah, in Japanese restaurants, I've heard that they'll have an MSG shaker on the table. Someone else told me, I forget what ethnicity it was, but he said, my mom is Asian and she carries around a shaker of MSG with her to season her food with. It's very interesting. Well, we'll go over why Asians particularly will not give up their glutamate. And it has to do with their, imagine this, ALDH, genetically. In the early part of the century, it was extracted.
And they're living longer too.
What's that? Oh, they're
living longer
yeah,
too. They have complaints about an aging population. It might just be the MSG because they are, consuming seafood and lots of eggs and things like that. And something's protecting them against that all that vitamin A and heavy metals from some of the other foods they eat.
This is very true. And then the funny thing was when Kelsey brought up the glutamate helping with hair growth study, I thought about it. And so when we think of Asian cultures, you don't really think about balding that much. You don't think about male pattern balding that much in Asian cultures. And they do love their high glutamate and MSG foods. Is it a coincidence? I'll let you think about that. I mean, I asked a couple people, I said, imagine your head like balding Asians. And they're like, I can't. It's not really something that we think about. They might shave their head or do interesting hairdos, but yeah. So MSG, where does it come from? A fermentation process of molasses from sugarcane or sugar beets, as well as starch and corn sugar. Okay. Flavor enhancement properties. So I won't hit on this. I'll leave that one alone. That's umami. We already went over that one. Okay. It's points to MSG's potential to enhance food intake in the elderly. There's actually studies showing that it helps elderly people function better. And then, okay. Yeah, we'll just skip on that part. You can read those if you want to go back. So MSG consumption and metabolism. The human body metabolizes glutamate added to foods in the same manner it metabolizes glutamate found naturally in many foods. Once glutamate is ingested, once it's in you, our bodies make no distinction between the origins of the glutamate. The body cannot distinguish between free glutamate from tomatoes or added MSG in tomato sauce. It's the same thing. It's like when I show that vitamin A toxicity from natural sources is exactly the same as vitamin A toxicity from synthetic sources. If it's the same chemical, folks, it does the same thing. If chemists cannot tell the difference between the two compounds, there is no difference. There may be other stuff taken with it that changes the effect, but that doesn't mean that the poison is not still the same poison. Okay? MSG and public health. Consumers continue to have questions regarding MSG's safety and efficacy. However, there's general agreement in the scientific community. So people who actually look at the research and don't just listen to the crazy hippie lady at Whole Foods saying MSG will ruin your brain, okay? Based on numerous biochemical, toxicological, and medical studies over the last 20 years that MSG is safe for the general population, including pregnant and lactating women and children. When you find out how much glutamate is in breast milk, you're going to fall over. Pregnant and lactating women. Pitkin et al. Intravenously administered large amounts of MSG into pregnant monkeys to increase glutamate levels in the mother's bloodstream. On examination, so they want to check out the baby, the fetus. No increases in the fetal glutamate levels were found with doses up to 220 milligrams per kilogram of maternal weight. That's a lot. The authors further concluded that the placenta is virtually impermeable to glutamate even at high levels. What they're trying to say there is that even if the mother is like ODing on glutamate, it doesn't get to the baby. Why would this be important? Well, as Kelsey forgot to mention this, but she talked to me about it before. In those 2-day-old mice in that excitotoxin study, they don't have a full blood-brain barrier yet. So injecting tons of MSG into baby mice that do not have an intact blood-brain barrier is a recipe for disaster, or it's a recipe for a psyop, is what it is. So in rodent studies, researchers investigated effects of dietary through your mouth, okay, through your cake hole, of MSG on reproduction and birth. Pay attention here, because if MSG is so bad, you should see this. The study looked at 3 generations of mice that were fed a daily intake of up to 7.2 grams per kilogram of MSG. So let's just, I know this this is not the right conversion, but I'm just going to say, okay, just for the easy math, I'm going to say, let's say I'm 100 kilograms, which is too heavy for me, but that's 220 pounds. Let's just say, so 100 kilogram man, that's 720 grams of MSG. Now, I know you can't convert humans to animals like this. I'm just trying to give you a rough thing because I don't have the time to do the calculation. 700 grams. No adverse effect was observed in each generation, nor was there evidence of any incident of brain lesions in the neonates. This just totally ruined that whole excitotoxin study. 3 generations of mice in a row fed tons of MSG by mouth. Don't IV MSG, okay, folks? Besides research in the fetus, scientists also investigated the effect of MSG ingestion on lactation and breastfed infants. Upon examination of lactating women who consumed MSG at 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, researchers noticed no increase in the level of glutamate in human milk and no effect on the infant's intake of glutamate. So the mother controlled how much glutamate she put into the milk. Likewise, studies show that breastfeeding infants are able to detect the taste of naturally occurring free glutamate. Why would an infant need to detect this taste unless it was important? And do they want this taste or do they not? They want it. Wow, sounds important. Which is 10 times more plentiful in human breast milk than in cow's milk. Let me go over 2 stats for you. So human milk has 10 times more glutamate in it, and we have 1/4 of the calcium of cow's milk. 10 times more glutamate and only 25% of the calcium of cow's milk. Which sounds like it's more important for humans, developing humans. And when we get into how glutamate fits in with vitamin K and calcium metabolism, you'll start to understand why. According to Baker et al., a newborn infant through breastfeeding ingests more free glutamate per kilogram of body weight than during any other period of its life. Do we generally think of infants and children as healthy or sick compared to adults and older people? Well, they're generally healthier. Weird. They're taking in more free glutamate than at any other time in their life. And yet they're not getting brain lesions. Crazy, right? Additionally, in December 1993, the American Academy of Pediatrics Committee on Drugs reviewed the effects of food and environmental agents on breastfeeding. In the report, the committee stated that MSG has no effect on lactation and poses no risk to the consuming infant. Hold on, I got to blow my nose. Okay. In children, in the study, infants were fed beef consomme, that's like beef broth, soup, providing MSG at various dosage levels of 0, 25, and 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So if this was me, like if we were, well, I mean, if I'm just going to take the 100-kilogram man, that's 5,000, that's 5 grams of MSG. That's more than a teaspoon in an infant. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. So if an infant, let's just say an infant was, let's say an infant is, I don't know, 20 pounds. So let's say 10 kilos. So 10 kilos, they're giving 500, they're giving half a gram of MSG. Researchers measured the infant's plasma glutamate levels, and after comparing the children's plasma levels to those of adults, found no higher plasma glutamate levels for children. It doesn't get into your blood unless you do obscenely high doses. Your body, your gut actually, well, we'll get into that. Your gut feeds on the glutamate. Gosh, wait, do we have a leaky gut epidemic? Weird. Are people avoiding glutamates? Yeah, huh. It is the most important food for your gut. Additionally, scientific evidence has not implicated MSG in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or other behavioral problems in children. So the hippie, crunchy ladies at the vitamin stores can stop talking about it causing autism, okay? MSG and neurological effects. This is the study that Kelsey went over, okay? However, the doses of MSG, this is that mouse study, used were extremely high, and the method of injection, as well as force feeding them, do not accurately represent the way humans consume MSG. Interestingly, Olney's results could not be duplicated when large amounts were administered in the diet. So injecting it is different than eating it. Shocking. Indeed, studies evaluating the normal dietary ingestion of MSG in food, including amounts exceeding 40 grams per kilogram of body weight, 5,000 times higher than normal amounts ingested, found no harmful effects on the brain. They go through the normal glutamate content of foods. Following Olney's observations, the excitotoxin guy. Early research conducted by these guys compared large amounts of glutamate fed to adult humans and gerbils. Study involved 11 human adult males who consumed diets containing MSG dosages of up to 147 grams per day for a maximum of 42 days, 200 times higher than normal consumption. 147 grams. So a teaspoon, let's figure, let's just say a tablespoon of MSG. This is going to be a little off probably, but let's just say a teaspoon is 4 grams. So a tablespoon is 3 of those. So a tablespoon's 12 grams. So that means they were this one person in the study. There was other people who had close to this amount, but that's 12 tablespoons of MSG a day for 42 days. 12 tablespoons of MSG a day for 42 days. During that time, researchers did not observe any sign of adverse reactions to the dosage and concluded that very high oral doses of glutamate are tolerated with no neurological changes by adult gerbils as well as humans. MSG is also 20% sodium. So 20% of this is about, these guys were on 30 grams a day of sodium from the MSG. No problems. Okay, so again, they fed these mice, weanling and lactating mice, mega doses. They did not develop brain lesions. You have been lied to completely about MSG, and it's the media that's feeding this. The media is keeping this going that MSG is bad for you. It's not bad for you. It's feeding the hospital and the sick care system. Furthermore, plasma glutamate levels in mice that were fed large amounts of MSG in the diet were much lower than those required to induce brain damage. Takasaki et al. Concluded that MSG in the diet does not cause any acute or long-range adverse effect on the brain. You can check all these references too. They got all the references in here. William Partridge, MD, further illustrated that dietary glutamate does not enter the brain because the blood-brain barrier maintains a transport system for acidic amino acids such as glutamate to effectively exclude circulating glutamate from the brain. Remember, the baby mice had no blood-brain barrier, and then they injected it into their blood. So
it improves barrier function too, like the liver barrier.
Yes.
It improves barrier function too. The liver barrier, the gut barrier, the biliary biliary tract, that thing. Yeah, biliary tract. I'm not good with the science words. I don't always say them out loud. So it helps with all those barriers, and it also helps with maybe you've heard me talk about PGP, which is it literally shoves toxins back into the lumen, which is the gut or closer to the outside areas too. It also feeds that system, so it actually improves barrier function instead of hurting it. It's like literal food for your enterocytes. It's food for my favorite cells, the macrophages. They're called the big eaters, and if you've listened to us for a while, you know that those are our cleanup crew. Our immune system is like our toxin and damage cleanup crew too. It's food for them. They like it too. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay, Joe, Joe just sent me a message in our chat. Joe, do you want to add that? Do you want to say that? Okay, Joe's just going to put the quote up there. He's saying, come to think of it, his liver cramps have gone away since he started on MSG. Yeah, Joe, if you want to expand on that, go ahead.
Okay, I will. I've had this thing. It's about right around here or so, and I would get these cramps and spasms. And I remember one time I was driving, and they were like a level maybe 7 on the pain scale, and they would last for maybe 20 seconds at a time, and then it would ease off, and then it would come back. I mean, I think I made a note somewhere. It happened maybe 7 or 10 times in a row, and it was like, wow, and I told the doctor about this. They had my liver scanned and all this stuff, and with ultrasound, and yet they find nothing. Just like you say, that it's kind of the liver issues are not really that well.
They don't know what they're doing.
Right. They all they can do is look at these enzyme levels and stuff, and I don't know what all they can do, but anyway, but I know that I had these cramps and nothing was helping. But come to think of it, since I started taking the MSG, that these cramps have gone away, and so I'm really grateful for that. And what triggered me to think about it was you, Kelsey, talking about it helping the biliary walls and stuff. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm going to go over that. There's a paper that I'm going to cover where the bile duct cells actually grab onto glutamate as it goes by. So they try to conserve it. They want to keep it in the system. You guys are not going to believe like how many ways your body has to make glutamate, to turn things into glutamate, and how many ways it has of just grabbing onto it as much as it possibly can. So let me head back into that article. So this Brian Meldrum, MD, after reviewing numerous studies of various fields, he concluded, quote, the dietary consumption of glutamate has not been shown to cause neuropathology in man. I'm going to emphasize again, everybody who looks at the science of MSG says this is not a problem and it may actually be good for you in humans who eat it, especially with food, especially protein foods. So let's see. After reviewing over 20 published studies, Fernstrom stated that the abundance of scientific evidence indicates that dietary glutamate does not present a risk to normal brain function. We'll keep moving on. Oh, this is about the people. So folks, we're going to go over if you think you have an MSG sensitivity. Okay, that's possible. That is possible. We're not going to deny that. There is a way of getting past that. And it actually involves using less MSG, but keeping on using it and using it on healthy foods, not eating garbage foods. But anyway, the one thing that I've noticed in my practice, in my, getting close to, almost 20 years of practice now, is one of the things I found the most humorous always is when somebody comes to me and they say, no, I know this works on me. It's definitely not placebo. That's always my favorite thing, when a person knows it's not placebo. And I always kind of chuckle at that because I'm like, okay, it's not placebo. Okay, that's how these things work, right? Placebos. Somebody else goes, well, it's definitely placebo on me because I believed in it and it made it happen. Folks, you don't know if it's placebo or not. Your brain is a very, very powerful thing, and it can make you feel all sorts of things. So let's go into this. Physicians have documented many psychological factors that play a role in the perception of food allergy or food sensitivity. How many people felt they were gluten intolerant and they maybe weren't? They just hooked on to what the media said they should be or what was popular. Likewise, Parker et al. Reported in January 93 that individuals with unconfirmed reactions to foods were influenced by popular news media. So it is quite possible that somebody could have a sensitivity to MSG. Very few people. And we're going to go over one person who Kelsey's going to go over a testimonial of a person who got headaches when they started a little bit of MSG. And then the headaches go away and then they get better. So we're going to hit on that. But it could be placebo too. MSG and food intolerances. This is the Chinese restaurant syndrome. We're going to skip a lot of this. This is just basically showing that people who thought they were sensitive to MSG were not. When they gave them straight MSG and normal foods, and the people didn't know whether they were getting MSG or not, they didn't have the symptoms most times. So let's see. This is, again, just reactions. Yeah, we're going to skip all that. MSG and hydrolyzed proteins. Okay, so for the people who eat junk foods and think that it's the MSG, it's got to be the MSG. Remember, we talked about that other thing, cooking wine, excess salt. I forget the other one, acetyl salicylic acid.
Sulfur.
What were you saying?
Sulfur? Sulfites?
Sulfites, yeah, sulfites in the wine, yep. So
sulfites, yeah.
Some scientists believe that persons who report a sensitivity to hydrolyzed proteins, which is this would be like in foods. This is one way to produce MSG, but it also, as you'll see, may be sensitive to the soy, wheat, or other protein source used to produce the hydrolysate, rather than to glutamate itself, one of the most common amino acids in the body. These sources are well known to be involved in IgE-mediated food allergies and other adverse reactions, including celiac disease. Thus, reactions could be due to ingestion of soy, wheat, or other proteins that are not completely hydrolyzed. So that adds another thing to the list of things that people could be reacting to that they blame MSG for when it's not MSG.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, like caseomorphins, which is that and that peptide that they claim is why cheese is addictive. So withdrawal from that could cause a headache. So it's a pain reliever, but then without it, people can get pain and things like that. And also, if you hydrolyze proteins, then a lot more histidine as well is going to come out, and histidine actually promotes the absorption of copper, and your body tries to regulate that. It would rather bind to the glutamate, but if there's a lot of histidine in there that's getting released, and also if it's also releasing it's also affecting the glutathione, which has glutamate in it. Glutamate does feed into the glutathione cycle, and it could also make glycine as well. So it can interfere with your heavy metal detox too, or if you're taking vinegar will cause any copper that you're excreting to create free radicals as it's being going through the gut as well, and it also increases the absorption of copper. Vitamin C will do that too. So that's why those those things don't get along with all these other things. And there's vinegar in a lot of Asian foods too as well, which probably was causing it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to hit on this. This is about breathing stuff, asthmatic reactions. So I'm not going to read all of this, but one study concluded that MSG does not induce asthma, and it is unnecessary to advise asthmatics to avoid MSG. This was two other studies, I believe, here. Upon observation, none of the non-asthmatics experienced any change in pulmonary reactions, and only one asthmatic participant experienced some discomfort. And that was out of how many? 13 non-asthmatics, 30 asthmatics. So one person out of 30. However, when that asthmatic patient was challenged through double-blind placebo-controlled effort, no effect was seen. So it wasn't the MSG. In summary, it is apparent that there is no shortage of research conducted on this ubiquitous ingredient and its potential health effects. Because MSG is one of the most intensely studied food ingredients in the food supply and has been found safe. The Joint Expert Committee on Food Additives of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization and WHO placed it in the safest category for food additives. We're not big on, UN and the WHO here, but they're not recommending it. They're just saying it's safe. Okay. But then wait until you see the paper where they add vitamin A to MSG. Then you'll start to go, huh? Subsequently in 1991, this was the European community. They did theirs. The committee determined that specification of an acceptable daily intake was unnecessary. I want you to understand what that means. They looked at the safety of glutamate and said, in all estimations, they can't tell you an upper limit of how much you could take in a day that would cause you a problem. They're saying basically the safety is unlimited. Like, we're not going to give you an upper range because we don't know of an upper range. That's what no acceptable daily intake being necessary means. They couldn't put an upper limit on it as like a dangerous limit. So I think that's it on that one. That was a long one. Okay, let me hit on the next one. These get quicker. Glutamate is a neurotransmitter in the brain. Review of physiology and pathology. This is quick. Glutamate is the most abundant amino acid in the diet. There is no evidence for brain damage in humans resulting from dietary glutamate. These are pretty strong statements. Okay, let's keep going. So now we have the role of glutamate and glutamine metabolism and related transporters in nerve cells. While we're talking about glutamine, so I remember in years past, maybe some of you did, where there was the big push to take tons of glutamine, 30 grams of glutamine a day or more to fix your leaky gut. Okay, well, too much glutamine. Kelsey can get into this in our future MSG episode about like taking too much glutamine and how that affects ammonia and all that stuff. But what I believe that these people were trying to do, I mean, glutamine's important, don't get me wrong. But what they were really trying to do without knowing it is they're trying to supplement to get more glutamate because glutamine can be converted into glutamate. Glutamate.
Yeah, so it works for a while, but it does the duration paradox.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I never saw anybody who came to me and said, oh, yeah, I took glutamine and it fixed all my leaky gut problems, and they never came back. It never worked that way. People would get on these giant leaky gut protocols that had tons of glutamine. They're basically drinking glutamine all day, and maybe it helps. Most of the time it didn't, from what I heard. So yeah, that's not the answer. Glutamate and glutamine are the most abundant amino acids in the blood and play a crucial role in cell survival, as Kelsey was going over, like in without enough oxygen in the nervous system. Let me see if I had anything else here. Glutamate and glutamine play a crucial role in the brain due to their special effects. So there are specifically, I don't know if you guys, we haven't really said this. Folks, glutamate, not only is it a fuel for cells, but it is the most abundant neurotransmitter in your entire body. So when you hear about dopamine and serotonin and all this stuff, there is more glutamate in you than any of those. Kind of important. In glutamatergic neurons, guess what they name those after? Glutamine is primarily deaminated in mitochondria by glutaminase, an enzyme for glutamine to form glutamate, which enters synaptic vesicles to complete the glutamate-glutamine cycle. You have neurons totally related to glutamate, okay? And now we got this part. I trimmed this down a lot this morning. We got this one. Glutamate, a safe nutrient, not just a simple additive. Let me make that a little bigger. There we go. Glutamate, naturally included in proteins, is a major source of dietary glutamate. Thus, since it plays a role in nitrogen homeostasis, that's your nitrogen balance. This is like what you talk about, like one of the things people think about this, or the bodybuilder types think about, athletes, building muscle or breaking down muscle, nitrogen homeostasis. It is a nutrient before being an additive. So when you look at that MSG bag, like if you get a bag of Ajinomoto, you need to think of it as it's like a nutrient. It's not just something you're sprinkling on your food for flavor. Although it will completely transform your diet and you will enjoy both life more and your food more because your body is getting what it wants. What are we talking about? Glutamate or glutamic acid added to a diet is generally in the form of MSG or one of its sodium, potassium, calcium, ammonium, and magnesium salts. These are additives designated with these numbers. Glutamate is also naturally present in food, either in free form or bound to proteins. So when you cook foods or when you ferment foods or when you do these other things, you can break down the proteins. And this is part of what the flavor change is you're breaking down the proteins and you're freeing up glutamate so then you can taste it. And that's why you like your foods made in certain ways better than others. However, as MSG and all other glutamate salts dissociate in aqueous solution, that means they break apart. MSG, sodium, and glutamate, it breaks apart in water and so behave exactly as free glutamate. The latter term will be used. So they're going to call all glutamate salts and everything glutamic acid glutamates. And when we consider, quote, glutamate in any form, we use the term of glutamates. Let's keep going. Glutamate is a non-essential amino acid, highly non-essential, highly involved in nitrogen and energy metabolism. When you see how many things make glutamate in your body, you're going to start to wonder, wow, it seems really kind of essential that our body makes it so many ways. Plays a key role in nitrogen homeostasis. Dietary glutamate, pay attention here, is absorbed from the intestinal lumen, the inside of your guts, in a dose-dependent and saturable process, and is highly catabolized or broken down in the splanchnic area. What this means, so 90% of the glutamates that you take in your diet are taken up by your gut cells. Do we have a leaky gut epidemic? Are we scared of glutamates generally? Do we crave them in our diet? Does the American diet look like we're trying desperately to get glutamate as much as we can? But then we think those are bad foods because they are restaurant crap foods. 90% of it is absorbed by your intestines. Indeed, glutamate is the most important fuel for the gut. Well, bet you never saw that in your leaky gut protocols. The author observed that natural protein-bound glutamate was mainly provided by cow's milk for children and meat and some cereal products for adults. Ripened cheese, preserved meats, potatoes, and tomatoes contributed the most to average intakes of dietary natural free glutamate. So that's where most people are trying to get it from. That doesn't mean they're good, they're healthy sources. Some people are poisoning themselves with, let's say, vitamin A because they're desperate to get glutamate. And they think they love these foods because animal foods or what, it's that they want the glutamate and you can get it other places. Oh, so Sergio made a little post. He said, Doc, I once took a glutamine capsule for gut health. I couldn't sleep for 2 effing days after. It was horrible. Yeah, you got to be careful of that stuff. So Sergio, if you decide you want to try some MSG, you should start with just a tiny sprinkle and then move up from there. Okay. Was this the one? Oh, this is the 3. I'm going to skip that one. I don't know why I didn't take that one out. Again, another statement. Human studies show that dietary glutamate is neurosafe at very high doses, like 147 grams a day. In conclusion, the extent to which plasma glutamate concentration, your blood glutamate, must rise to alter the brain is never encountered in humans consuming glutamate in their daily diets, whatever its origin, naturally in the diet or additive as an MSG, as glutamate is highly metabolized in the splanchnic area, that's your guts. Included in the diet, glutamate does not present any adverse effects in man. Some studies demonstrated a trend to an inverse relationship between glutamate's intake and blood pressure. That means more glutamates, less blood pressure, more glutamates, less risk of mortality, more glutamates, less risk of stroke. Oh, sounds terrible, doesn't it? And usual MSG consumption seems not to be associated with clinically significant weight gain. One of the things, if you go and find studies where they say MSG is associated with more obesity, they didn't control for fat intake. If you go and start taking tons of MSG with tons of fat, like if you're keto and you start putting MSG on your food, you're going to have a bad time. Humans aren't designed for high-fat diets. I'm sorry. That's not how we work. So if you're looking at an MSG study where they say it made obesity worse, they're not controlling for the fat intake. And one of the biggest problems that's happening in Asia is they are starting to eat more fat than they used to. And they already add MSG to their food. It's a bad combination. All these results have to be confirmed by larger prospective cohort studies or meta-analysis. In other words, glutamate consumption in ordinary diet is safe. Sounds dangerous. Okay, so now, still going. This is just the paper. If you guys want to see it, this is the paper where they took up to 147 grams a day of MSG over 42 days. No issues. Other than, hey, we understand cholesterol here. Cholesterol is a marker of detox, right? So if I'm going to tell you glutamate helps your detox, they had lower cholesterol at the end of 6 weeks. Not crazy lowered cholesterol, but just some. But glutamate helps you detox, okay? And before anybody says, well, does MSG accumulate? Let's hit on this one. Plasma amino acid patterns and visceral protein status in users and non-users of MSG. So they were either consuming or not consuming MSG regularly for at least 1 year. Fasting plasma glutamate concentrations, so the blood glutamate concentrations in female non-users and users of MSG were 22.4 versus 21.8. These values were not significantly different. These findings indicate that there is no glutamate accumulation in the plasma of MSG users and imply the safety of long-term MSG intake. I want you to look at users of MSG were 21.8 and non-users were 22.4. So the non-users of MSG actually had higher glutamate in their blood than the people who ate it. One of the ideas here that Kelsey and I wanted to get across is taking more glutamate in from outside, like seasoning your food with it or even supplementing it, takes a huge strain off your body. As you're going to see, your body's trying to make glutamate in so many ways, if it needs to, if it wants to, that if you take it in from the outside, you're just making it easier on your body so it doesn't have to work so hard. So that's all for that one. Oh, this is another paper. This, we don't have to go over this too much, but MSG does not cause obesity. Numerous long-term animal feeding studies have demonstrated that MSG does not increase food intake or induce obesity. Recent studies of MSG given in drinking water to rats as a 1% solution showed an association with suppression in body weight gain. You're going to see, I've already told you a couple of body comp stories. Kelsey's body comp changed. My body comp changed. We're going to talk, Gabe's is probably changing as we went over before. And then we have another testimonial later. I believe that's Wardy's, where her body comp is shifting a bit. So suppression in body weight gain, fat deposition, fat deposits, and plasma leptin levels. So yeah, they had elderly people. So they said no difference in energy intake or body weight in elderly persons receiving food flavor with MSG for varying periods of time. So they didn't see weight gain. They saw no difference. No correlation between MSG ingestion and BMI when considering national MSG consumption patterns and body weight statistics. Countries with higher glutamate intake levels do not show higher BMIs, even when they use it as a seasoning. Asian countries tend to have higher MSG use than Western countries, yet their BMIs are typically below Western countries. What do Western people eat too much of? Fat. I'm not anti-fat, folks. Americans eat too freaking much fat. Stop adding so much damn fat to your food. The food has fat. That's the design. You're not supposed to be pouring fat on things or just eating giant chunks of fat. Knowledge of food composition and culinary practices is also lacking. The authors list the glutamate intake in non-users of MSG as 0 grams, thus ignoring the numerous components of Chinese cuisine that are rich in glutamate, such as fermented foods, meat and vegetable stocks, hydrolyzed proteins, and yeast extracts, and thus likely ingested by all participants. So basically, the studies on MSG and obesity, they were saying that some people ate 0 glutamate, which is impossible because glutamate is in basically every food. So either it's a psyop or the researchers are just complete idiots about the subject they're studying. Okay. Okay, so now we're getting into the delicious part, the part 2. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one. We have a specific taste receptor for glutamate. Metabotropic glutamate receptor type 1 in taste tissue. That's about all the time I'm going to spend on that one. Okay. Next, I just wanted to hit on this one. The study, the researcher who did that study. The researcher who did that study on the tongue, the taste receptor for umami on the tongue. Ana San Gabriel, the main author of the article and a scientist belonging to the Spanish network of researchers abroad, based at the Institute of Life Sciences in Ajinomoto, Kawasaki. Ajinomoto, there's like a town called Ajinomoto. That must be where the guy lived or something. Kawasaki, Japan, explained regarding whether glutamate is possibly toxic. The researcher is categorical. Quote, if food safety is evaluated with scientific rigor, not fear-mongering BS over a guy's letter to a journal, MSG is entirely safe for human consumption. If people talk about it being toxic and MSG continues to receive negative publicity, it is because results are extrapolated from administration routes like IV, like injections, and doses that do not correspond to reality. In fact, it is less toxic than salt. Imagine a scientist saying that MSG is less toxic than salt. Do you think they're risking their reputation, or would other scientists be like, yeah, I looked at the research, it's not dangerous? I talked to actually a guy I'm working with to help me with the business. I brought up MSG to him the other day. He said he's a super smart guy, and he was like, I only season my food with MSG. He's like, I don't even use salt anymore. That's all I use is MSG. And the funny thing was we're both doing a similar kind of workout program, and I'm telling him I'm like bigger muscularly than I've ever been in my life. And he's like, so am I, dude. And we're both going, this is crazy. Hold on. Where did Kelsey, did your, okay. Joe took it off. Okay. Okay. So yeah, less toxic than salt. Now I wanted to show you this too. We have a taste for umami, right? For glutamate. I'm just going to hit the title of this one. Prolonged exposure to MSG in healthy young adults decreases their perceived umami taste and diminishes appetite for savory foods. Okay. So the more glutamate you get, does this make sense? Our bodies want glutamate, and as you give it more, it craves it less. What did I tell you about my cravings? The whole like American wheat, cheese, meat. I mean, I'm not against meats, don't get me wrong, but red meats. And then we have, what were the other ones? It's skipping my mind now. But the things that I used to crave, as I've gotten MSG, I don't want them anymore. You don't go searching for things that you're giving your body. As Kelsey was saying, it actually kind of calms down the system because you're giving it what it wants. So all of you who are having trouble sticking to the diet, you start adding some MSG to your stuff, and you're going to find it's like so easy, and all the things that would like haunt you about wanting other foods goes away. This is, okay, I'm going to say it now. I think this is the addiction. When you go on Twitter or you go on social media and you start, let's say you guys are out there, being the warriors out there, and you're talking to people about their dairy and their eggs and their pork and their whatever. And they're like, I'm not giving this up. You're crazy. These are good for you. I think they're actually addicted to the glutamate in it. And that's why they won't give it up. And if you gave them MSG and they stopped craving it so much, then we'd have our proof. So, okay. Well, we kind of already went over that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the breast milk. We already went over it's 10 times higher in human breast milk than in cow's milk. Let me see what I got on this one. I'll just hit on the high points of this. So how much does the mother's body knows the baby needs glutamine and glutamate? While concentrations of most individual free amino acids steadily decreased with the progression of lactation. So other amino acids are going down as the mother lactates, as the mother breastfeeds longer. Glutamate and glutamine steadily increased after 3 weeks of lactation and yielded the greatest level in late mature milk. The most abundant was glutamate, with a concentration around 20 times higher than that of other free amino acids. Taurine was also abundant, 20 times higher than other amino acids. Gosh, is it ruining kids' brains? I'm going to say no. And I kind of already went over the 10 times more glutamate in human milk than cow milk. This one I wanted to go over. Free amino acids in human milk. Potential role for glutamine and glutamate in the protection against neonatal allergies and infections. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Protection against allergies. Well, I've already been over a bunch of times about how vitamin A in pregnancy, during pregnancy, and in infancy and that stuff increases allergies a lot. Well, glutamate's connected to ALDH. We'll go over that, but let's go over if people don't get enough glutamine or glutamate. Let's hit on these. In addition to proteins, human milk contains free amino acids which have not been well studied. Of those, the free FAAs, glutamate and glutamine, are by far the most abundant. Levels of these free amino acids in human milk sharply increase during the first months of lactation, in contrast to most other free amino acids. These unique dynamics are globally consistent across the globe, regardless of diet, suggesting that their levels in human milk are tightly regulated through lactation and consequently that they might have specific roles in the developing neonate. Interestingly, free glutamine and glutamate are reported to exhibit immunomodulating capacities, as in they help your immune system, indicating that these free amino acids could contribute to neonatal immune development and to the unique protective effects of breastfeeding. So what would not be in formula? You think they're adding MSG to formula? No. So that means these kids are highly deficient in glutamate. Let's see what I got here. So let's just hit these. Of those amino acids, glutamine, glutamate, glycine, serine, and alanine, of these, glutamate is by far the most abundant, accounting for more than 50% of the total free amino acid content at any stage of lactation. Half or more of the free amino acids in breast milk, in human breast milk, is glutamate. Stop thinking it's hurting you or hurting your children. And then glutamine, which is turned into glutamate, the second most abundant free amino acid, shows the highest relative increase in concentration, increasing almost 350% from month 1 to 6 of lactation and reaching a concentration of up to 0.6 millimoles. Okay. Pretty important. Now, let me go into the amino acids that can become glutamate. Let me find the chart, Joe, before I share it. So yes, this is ChatGPT because it prepared a nice little chart for me. Sue me. Amino acids that can become glutamate. Do you guys know what this enzyme is? ALT, that's one of your liver enzymes. ALT, the liver enzyme, turns alanine into glutamate. AST, you guys recognize this one? This is another liver enzyme. turns aspartate into glutamate. Those of you who are into the leucine fad, where people were taking a bunch of leucine to try to get bigger, the branch chain amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine can all be turned into glutamate. So when all the bodybuilders and athletes are taking a bunch of branch chain amino acids, what might they really be trying to do? Get more glutamate. Glutamine. Hey, glutamine can turn into glutamate. Histidine can turn into glutamate. Proline can turn into glutamate. Arginine can turn into glutamate. How many guys are out there taking a bunch of arginine every day for their masculinity? So if you want to call it that. Okay. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 amino acids the body can turn into glutamate. Okay. We have 2 of the liver enzymes right there. Now let's look at the human enzymes that can make glutamate. Where's my chart again? Oh, I just wanted to hit on this. Here, let me share this. So again, we have ALT or GPT if you're over in Europe or other countries. So liver enzyme makes glutamate. Another liver enzyme makes glutamate. We've got the branch chain aminotransferases. We went over that. Histidinol. But I wanted to hit on one here. There's glutaminase. We talked about that. Asparaginase. Wait, asparagine can turn into glutamate too. And gamma glutamyl hydrolase makes it glutamate dehydrogenase. Wait, we have a glutamate dehydrogenase. And that's in the ammonia cycle. GGT, right here. Another liver enzyme. Another major liver enzyme, gamma glutamyl transferase, makes glutamate. Another glutamyl for oxoproline. More enzymes. Look at how many enzymes you have. The biggest contributors to glutamate production in the body. The biggest contributors. Liver enzyme. Glutaminase. Your liver is making glutamate for you. Your body loves glutamate. When your liver enzymes are up, you're not trying to make your liver enzymes go up. So I want you to think about this. Let's say your liver enzymes are up. Your liver's working hard. I'll call it's working hard to protect you. Either because you're putting toxins in or you're detoxing hard. But what if the parts of your liver that made that could take a break and do other stuff instead of having to make tons of glutamate for you? Do you understand? It's like taking glutamate from outside relieves your body of the stress of having to make glutamate. Your body doesn't slow down its production. Okay. Now, this is a fun one. As Joe was talking about, as Kelsey and Joe were talking about the biliary ducts, intrabiliary glutathione hydrolysis, a source of glutamate in bile. What this is basically saying, I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to go into the quote. Inside your bile ducts, your body is breaking down glutathione to get glutamate. Okay? Your body is breaking down glutathione to get glutamate. Must really want it. Let's go to the next one. Glutamate uptake in primary cultures of biliary epithelial cells from normal rat liver. The bile duct cells that line the bile ducts are grabbing onto glutamate as much as they can. Your body is trying to make this and conserve it as much as possible. This is a huge part of everything your body is doing. It has been demonized probably because it's going to hurt us. Now, this is a fun one. Oops, sorry. I stopped sharing. Did I stop sharing? No, I just got to go to the right one. There we are. I'm going to hit on these studies really quick because I don't want to go into each one of them. I want to save a little time here. What these studies are showing is that let me go into the first one and then we'll skip the rest of them. Effects of changing glutamate 487 to lysine in rat and human liver mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase, a model to study human oriental type as an Asian class 2 aldehyde dehydrogenase. Let me tell you something first if you don't remember this. 50% of Asians have what is called a genetically slow ALDH. Their aldehyde dehydrogenase is slow. This is the source of the Asian glow or the Asian flush. If you or people you know say they're allergic to alcohol, this is it. They have a slow ALDH. It could be caused by meds they took or poisons they were exposed to, or it could just be genetic for them. I grew up with my buddy's sister. He was like, my sister Leslie is allergic to alcohol. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, when she drinks it, she gets bright red. She was European, but she had this alcohol allergy, which is slow ALDH. Okay. Pay attention here. Effects of changing glutamate to lysine at the 487 spot. Many Oriental people possess a liver mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase where glutamate at position 487 has been replaced by a lysine, and they have very low levels of mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase activity. Is it starting to click as to why Asians would never give up their MSG? I'm not saying I know how all this fits together, because I don't think the body can just shove a glutamate into an aldehyde dehydrogenase, but it makes sense that if they lack glutamate as part of this enzyme, which detoxes aldehydes, if they put more glutamate in, they can process this stuff better. They can do it. It helps them in some way. This is why Asians eat so much glutamate foods, and why they would probably die before they gave up their MSG, and why they never believed the psyop making MSG out to be a bad guy. So anyway, what we have this is one study on glutamate missing from their one glutamate, one amino acid switched to lysine. So we have, I won't go over all of these, but we have, again, the mutation in the mitochondrial ALDH2 gene responsible for alcohol-induced flushing increases turnover of the enzyme tetramers in a dominant fashion. It's missing a glutamate. It's got something else as instead of a glutamate where it should have it. Again, aldehyde dehydrogenase maintaining critical active site geometry at motif 8 in the class 3 enzyme. It's got something else instead of a glutamate there. Oh, this was a little wrong. There we go. Involvement of glutamate 268 in the active site of human liver mitochondrial ALDH as probed by site-directed mutagenesis. So this is a different glutamate, not 487. Gosh, glutamate seems to be really important in running ALDH. Do we talk about ALDH here? Yeah. Pretty crazy that Kelsey came up with this stuff. And now here we are finding that missing glutamates in your ALDH causes your ALDH to be slow. And a fun one. This is a topic dear to Kelsey's heart. We talk about P-glycoprotein. P-glycoprotein is what detoxes your cells. It's your cellular detox mechanism. Glutamate upregulates P-glycoprotein expression. Glutamate helps your PGP to run faster. Are you putting this all together? Now we get to go into, so we're going to hit on cancer real quick. Here we understand that cancer is toxin storage tissue. In certain ways, I actually believe that cancer is kind of like what am I trying to say? Like little satellite livers. It's trying to store and process all this excess toxicity that it can't get rid of fast enough. Okay. We know that cancers, I've already said this a bunch of times, cancers are high in ALDH. Wow, what do you think they're detoxing then? Oh, I don't know. Aldehydes, maybe? Head and neck squamous cell carcinoma metabolism draws on glutaminolysis, and stemness is specifically regulated by glutaminolysis via aldehyde dehydrogenase. Let me find the part that we have here. So they were saying that glutaminase was high. Glutaminase, which catalyzes or increases the production of glutamate formation from glutamine, and aldehyde dehydrogenase, a stemness marker, were highly expressed in primary and metastatic head and neck cancer tissues, tumor spheres, and CSC versus controls. There's a thing right out there right now where they're trying to say that like glutamate feeds cancer. No. Your body uses glutamate to detox stuff. So a cancer is trying to process toxins. So does it take in a lot of glutamate? And it even makes glutamate. Cancer is not some rogue. It's not rogue. It's your own body trying to protect you by storing toxins and actually trying to make more toxin processing tissue. But you're way behind. By the time you got cancer, you're way behind in your toxin processing. So ALDH is there to detox, and glutaminase is there to make more glutamate. Liver enzymes make glutamate. Okay, now I wanted to get into this before we hit. We're almost back to Kelsey. We got the PGP.
Yeah.
No, we're not yet. I'm almost done. I feel like I've been taking over the whole thing, but you have plenty to do after that.
That's okay. I'm just talking to the people.
Are you talking in the chat? Okay, both dietary supplementation with MSG and fat modify circulating and tissue amino acid pools in growing pigs, but with little interactive effect. Let me make that a little bigger if I can. There we go. Both dietary fat and MSG modify the expression of genes related to amino acid transport in the jejunum. I'm just going to simplify this. My impression of what is going on with this is that MSG and dietary fat together are going to make things very, very, if you want to call it, I don't want to use the word anabolic and make people think it's going to build muscle. It's going to make people fat. Lots of fat and lots of MSG are going to kind of synergize to bring in even more ability to build tissue. That's what fat is. It's energy storage and toxin storage. But then I wanted to go into this one, which Kelsey alluded to earlier. Monosodium glutamate raises antral distension and plasma amino acid after a standard meal in humans. 13 healthy adults were supplemented for 6 days with a nutritional dose of MSG, 2 grams, that's like half a teaspoon, or salt as a control following a crossover design. 7th day, they underwent a complete postprandial as after they ate examination for the 6 hours following the ingestion or eating of the same liquid standard meal. Okay, so they gave them like, it looks like just a protein shake-ish, supplemented with MSG or NaCl. Real ultrasound measures of the antral area. That's the bottom of the stomach. So the antral area is like the lower esophageal sphincter. It's like that bottom. It's the bottom of the stomach. Indicated a significant increased distension for the 2 hours following the meal, supplemented with MSG versus NaCl. I want you to understand that distension. People might hear that and go, "Wait, their stomach's distended? That's not good." This is actually a sign of better digestion. They look for this for a sign of good digestion. So they're saying the MSG strengthened the digestion. This early postprandial phase was also associated with significantly increased levels of circulating leucine, isoleucine, valine, lysine, cysteine, alanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan after MSG compared with salt. There's more amino acids in the blood, but they ate the same thing except for the MSG versus the salt. Somebody might look at this and go, wow, it looks like MSG might be kind of anabolic. And I'm telling you that this is what we're seeing in guys. It's like an amino acid supplement. You get to sprinkle an amino acid supplement on your food. No changes to the postprandial glucose, insulin, glucagon-like peptide 1, and ghrelin were noted between MSG and NaCl supplemented meals. Subjective assessments of hunger and fullness were neither affected by MSG supplementation. So they didn't get more hungry. They didn't feel more full. Finally, the postprandial after they ate fate of dietary nitrogen was identical between the dietary conditions. Our findings indicate that nutritional dose of MSG promoted greater postprandial after they ate elevations of several indispensable amino acids like branch chain amino acids in plasma and induced gastric distension. That's a good thing. Further work to elucidate the possible sparing of effective MSG on indispensable amino acid first pass uptake in humans is warranted. If you want to, go look up antral distension. If you don't believe me, go look up what antral distension means when they look at studies. I'm pretty sure it means basically, so that if they put the same amount of food down there and then the stomach is distending a little bit, I believe it means that the stomach is making more like hydrochloric acid and is putting more enzymes and stuff in there to digest it. So now.
Yeah, it increases the transit time. Sorry, it increases the transit time. So it does that by the vagus nerve and that sense that you have protein. It's a signal that you have protein. So it increases the acid because you need acid to break up the proteins into little amino acids so you can put them together and use it. If they stay as peptides, then they could be like still caseomorphins that we talked about earlier, or wheat glutens that are potentially allergenic for people. Other things, especially if you have like leaky gut or something like that. We want the stomach to be acidic to properly break down our food and then properly mix with the bile later on. It has to have that, that interaction in the duodenum, I think it is. Yeah, it has to have that interaction in there. The food should be properly acidic and properly digested before it goes in there. The interesting thing, though, is that MSG does not do this if there's no protein in there. So you can't fool it. So it won't slow down your digestion if there's no protein. It'll only slow it down if there's protein, so you could properly use those proteins.
Cool. So let's get into this one. This is a fun one, right? They're not trying to poison us, are they? The vitamin A fortified MSG and health, growth, and survival of children, a controlled field trial. They're trying to figure out different ways to poison us with vitamin A. And I'm pretty sure that they abandoned, so this was 1988. I'm pretty sure they abandoned this route because the MSG would have helped their health too much. They tested it and they were like, dang it. We got to put MSG in sugar and milk and other things that are problematic. MSG is too helpful. So I'm pretty sure that that's why they didn't ever do much on this. And then, okay, so let's go over. I told everybody that I had found something about something that modified calcium metabolism that was going to be really helpful for calcium metabolism. And that thing is MSG, and it is how it affects vitamin K metabolism. And this is why, as we're going to get into, as Kelsey's bleeding testimonial, stopping bleeding testimonial shows, there was, anyway, we'll get into that later, but we have 2 other bleeding testimonials where people were bleeding and they got on MSG and the bleeding stopped. They were trying vitamin K and vitamin K might help a bit. Kelsey, I think it helped a little bit, but nothing like it needed to. And then, or maybe it didn't help at all. Somebody else was having to take a lot of vitamin K to fix it. But let me just show this one. This is just a little summary. Well, let me hit on what is, where is it? Glutamate residues are part of vitamin K dependent proteins. Glutamate residues are part of vitamin K dependent proteins. Vitamin K is critical for your calcium metabolism. Yes, glutamate is central to gamma glutamyl carboxylase's function. The enzyme modifies specific glutamate residues in vitamin K dependent proteins, converting them into gamma carboxyglutamate, which is essential for these keywords: calcium binding. So why was glutamate able to help these women's bleeding stop so quickly? And I can tell you that, like, when I've gotten little cuts or whatever, little nosebleeds or whatever, they stop like almost immediately now. I don't think I'm hypercoagulable. It's just my fibrin and the other parts of the clotting cycle are just running like really well. So yeah, so there's that. I think I'm almost done. Oh yeah. Okay, so this is the one testimonial I'm gonna do. Yeah. And then we'll get into Kelsey and doing the rest of this. Okay, so I'm gonna read. This is the bleeding one. Didn't I have another bleeding one? Yes. Okay, so 2 testimonials to go through about bleeding. These were, well, I know the first one is Wardy. She's in the chat, I believe. And Wardy is going to be our special guest next week. We're not going to be live next week. Wardy and I did a pre-recorded show, but you can come for the live chat. And Wardy will be there. Kelsey and I will try to be there. We may not be able to make it. I'll be up there visiting her. So anyway, let's go over this testimonial from Wardy. Dr. Smith and Kelsey contacted me to try taking MSG because I was having long and heavy periods where I wouldn't stop bleeding. I called it rebleeding because my period would taper off only to start up again, over and over again. One of them lasted nearly 8 weeks. I got anemic and had to supplement iron. Dr. Smith surmised this was a copper toxicity issue, as copper is an anticoagulant. At the time, the only thing that would stop the bleeding was to take quite a bit of vitamin K2 multiple times a day, but she was taking 5 a day. But it was the form MK7 that is a PGP inhibitor. Dr. Smith says PGP is your cellular detox mechanism. That is true. The other forms of vitamin K that would have been better for me did nothing to stop the bleeding. So MK4 didn't work for her. She was excited to try the MSG after we shared more details about why it might work to stop the bleeding and might help with other things too. I had some trial and error getting the amount right. At first, I had too much for me, but she's very sensitive. But after a few days, I settled into the right amount. Then I increased a bit more as the months went by. Even though I had too much on the first few days, I started sleeping better right away and noticed that every time I would have it, my bleeding would stop. I stopped taking vitamin K the second day I had MSG. She went from 5 pills a day of MK7 to help with her bleeding to none in 2 days. It was great timing to start MSG because I was on my period at the time. Basically, from then on, and it's been 3.5 months now, I haven't needed any vitamin K and have not had the bleeding problem at all. I am also not needing to supplement iron anymore. Ladies, pay attention. Wait, let me do full screen. There we go. In addition, my periods have been better overall. Not so heavy, not so long, 5 to 6 days instead of 7 to 14 or more, and even pretty regular for a 50-year-old. In addition, PMS is so much better. I used to have overwhelming fatigue leading up to my cycle, as well as headaches and insomnia for a few days. Now I am not abnormally tired during PMS or even the rest of the month. Maybe one mild headache, insomnia is much better, and I don't gain weight during my period anymore either. Some months I have a hard time knowing if my period is about to start because the PMS symptoms are so mild. Ladies, do you want that? I'm also doing better in other ways. In general, I have a lot more energy and I'm not nearly as tired as I used to be. I increased my daily walking time and how often I could work out with weights. I am more active now. My metabolism is good as my weight either holds steady or I lose weight. We talked about body comp. I am able to tolerate more sun, niacin, fiber, and I can even eat a little more beef than I could before. Beef is high in zinc and stirs up too much copper if I have too much. I've talked about, I didn't use Wardy's name before, but I've talked about Wardy before. She was the person who couldn't even tolerate the amount of zinc in red meat, but now she can. No more leg cramps at night, which used to happen over and over all night long. Zeolite helps with this. I am sleeping really well. If I was to sum this all up, I would say I feel really good. Some days I can hardly believe how great it feels to have a normal energy level and to wake up ready and excited for the day. I'm grateful to Dr. Smith and Kelsey for sharing the benefits of MSG with me. Even the tiny amount I currently take, a 1/4 teaspoon total a day, is helping tremendously. A little goes a long way. Thank you so much. I also think I'm less EMF sensitive. It's been a while since I've had electronic sounds in my head keeping me up at night or a buzzing feeling, come to think of it. This is probably since starting MSG, not before. Speaking of that, yesterday and today, I had more PMS symptoms, so I doubled up on MSG and it helped. No negatives. And that's Wardy. Like I said, she'll be my guest. We're going to go over low vitamin A cooking stuff and her traditional cooking school next week. So it was a fun conversation. So definitely come for that. The live chat will be going on. Another bleeding testimonial. And this is from another big person. This is from Megan Stevens of eatbeautiful.net. And her and Wardy are good friends. And we told Wardy about, Kelsey and I told Wardy about it. And then Wardy was like, can I get Megan on board with this? And then we were like, okay, cool. Yeah. So we got Megan on board and she sent us this testimonial. Years ago, I took a supplement called serapeptase, which I have used with some people to thin mucus in my lungs after a sickness. While it helped in one sense, it also thinned the mucus in the back of my throat so much that it started something new. My throat bleeding nightly when I brushed my teeth. My throat bled intermittently for years, and while this was concerning to me, I couldn't find a remedy to resolve it, other than a higher dose of vitamin K, which helped to only some extent. I want you to understand your vitamin K, whether you're getting it from your diet or whether you're taking a supplement, will work better when you have enough glutamate. I heard about MSG through Dr. Smith, and knowing it helped with bleeding issues, I tried it. I started at a low dose to be safe. safe, right? But quickly jumped up to 1.5 teaspoons within a week. I had 2 amazing results almost immediately. One, my throat stopped bleeding. And 2, I felt more energy, cheerful energy, so it affected my mood too. Does this sound like a neurotoxin? I found that depending on other health variables, my best dose is between 2 and 3 teaspoons. 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon each morning. I still take vitamin K as well, but I expect that I won't always need to as my body continues to heal more deeply, largely through the long-term benefits of MSG combined with a low vitamin A and low copper diet. I also shared MSG with my adult daughter and my 16-year-old son. Both of them have seen very significant mental health benefits with more cheerful outlooks on life and people, more optimism, and more joy. I feel very blessed that Kelsey and Dr. Smith are sharing MSG with others. It has been life-changing for our family. P.S. My daughter's dose is just sprinkling it on her food, so she gets the benefit from a very small amount. My son's dose is 1 teaspoon each morning. She's always had really hard periods. Within the first month of using MSG, less cramping, nothing crippling, and way less. Oh, this is what her daughter said. Sorry, this is what her daughter said. Within the first month of using MSG, her daughter said she had less cramping. It was nothing crippling and way less blood flow. Very curious if it will start being shorter, which is her ultimate goal. So I will say this. Actually, I remember this from I didn't read this on the paper about lactation, but mothers make a lot more glutamate for boys than they do for girls. Do I know why? No, I don't. But that's they do. They make it's over and over. Like they were saying, the glutamine and glutamate in the breast milk is very steady across different populations, different ethnicities. It's very, very steady, and mothers make more glutamate for boys. So Kelsey, now that we've done all that, now that I ran through all that stuff, let's go into the directions on how to do this. So I'll leave this to you. It's all nicely shaded for you.
Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah, so people were coming in kind of late and saying, wait, MSG is good for you and we should put it on our food. It's like, oh, hold on. Same thing like I say with niacin when I tell people using niacin, like don't take niacin if you're intoxing a lot of stuff because you're not going to feel good. So same thing with it here. It's going to be detoxing the food you just ate, and it's going to be helping detox of old stuff too. So if you're sensitive or very toxic, please go slow. Or if you're not pretty good on your diet, like maybe, I don't know, ballpark 80% compliant with like a low toxin diet, low toxin lifestyle, like the one we do on Love Your Liver program, don't take it. It's just gonna, like the food industry seems to be trying to do sneakily, it creates positive associations with bad food. So don't take bad foods with it too and get that positive association. Like when I eat this, I get glutamate, like they were trying to do with the, like the supplementing A with their MSG, putting A in their MSG in third world countries. Like that's awful. And always take with food, just like, just as if it's part of your protein already, as if it's already part of the free glutamate that's in there. I also heard something the other day is like women who eat, there's this thing going around on Instagram, like eat steak on your first day of your period and you'll feel a lot better. And what does steak have? It has a lot of, free glutamate, especially if you like sear the outside, you'll get some free glutamate extra in there with the salt and everything too. That's going to increase the reaction. And they have much better periods too. So that's another way to do it. If you don't quite believe us yet on the glutamate thing, on the sodium glutamate thing, you could try that first, just to check it out. So always take with foods, higher protein foods, because it's a way of telling your body that there is protein in there, and we need to put extra enzymes and digest it. It can increase the acid secretion. So you could do that. A lot of elderly people or people who are, liver toxic, which is, we're all on a spectrum of that these days here on Earth, don't make enough acid in their stomachs too, especially as people get older and, more toxic. So it helps increase that, and it helps, you hold on to it longer, to be able to absorb that protein properly. So you could get more out of your protein. It's less allergenic that way too, if you're properly cutting it all up and not creating these little weird peptides from your protein. But you can have a reaction. So yeah, there is a headache or headache-like symptom, or the torticollis, I think I'm saying that right, that I got back here when, you know, one muscle kind of went, and then like the rest of them kind of follow back. I believe that's a detox. And I think that's what happened is I had this rapid detox that suddenly turned on the nerve again that was kind of under metabolizing, under stimulated. And then, you know, pain that I didn't know I had kind of showed up. And I think they've even done some studies that it can, you know, kind of tighten up these muscles too, and that can cause a tension headache. So it's not actually going to your brain. Okay, so people need to understand that if you do get a headache, it's not from that. It has to do with like the tension here and in the mandible as well too. It's waking up those kind of pain receptors, or it's waking up those nerves that tell it to contract too, that might be understimulated because they've just been so understimulated. And think about this, you're always having to hold your jaw, right? This is some of the strongest muscles in your entire body. And so your neck too, because you always have to hold your head up. So they're like always on. And you know, if you're constantly stressed too, you're using this, what do you call it?
Temporalis.
Honey, do you, the one around your ear?
The temporalis, I believe you're talking about.
What?
Temporalis.
Yeah, the temporalis. Your temporalis are constantly, you know, firing too. So if you suddenly give something that wakes up the nerve and the muscle there, yeah, that's going to hurt for a while. So it's not that it's actually going into your brain. I mean, it's probably downstream later that it will help with detox, just because of the heavy metal and, you know, not needing as much in the gut, in the liver. That's probably going to allow more for the rest of your body too. So it could be indirectly, but that first headache, that's not because it's going into your brain. And so that's one thing to remember. All you got to do is just reduce your dose. It eventually helps headache, like we saw in the research. You know, it eventually helps strengthen all the barriers, all the epithelial tissues, to be able to detox properly and not have toxins go the wrong way and backwards. It increases PGP, which will help with heavy metal detox. So when you know, when it's time to grab those heavy metals and push them out of the brain, which is difficult to do, it's a very good barrier. So when stuff does get in there, it's kind of hard to get out sometimes. And you need glutamate to be able to do that. Supplementing N-acetylcysteine can be counterproductive in after a while. Adding cysteine can actually increase free radical formation and everything if you don't have enough glutamate and glycine. And I also discovered that, you know, looking across all sorts of neurodegenerative conditions and neurodivergent conditions, the problem is that they actually have not enough glutamine and glycine and glutamate. They're all low. Now, why is that? I thought these things were a problem, or if it was the ratio or something like that. No, they just don't have enough in general. So that's, you know, that's what can result in some of these neurodegenerative condition, is just this lack of brain energy, or this lack of ability to be able to detox heavy metals or toxins from the brain. I kind of got off track there. So like I said, I got the great benefit. My periods finally stopped because it was like helping with the hormone detox, and it was helping with the vitamin K and activating the vitamin K. So I must have been deficient, that I was taking K, but it wasn't working. Like it was missing something, and I think it was missing that glutamate that we talked about earlier. Okay, so I put on there a 50-50 salt with MSG. So if you want to do potassium, I think that's the current
that's the right one.
file. I hope so. We were kind of playing around.
I fixed it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. So if you want to try it, you know, make sure you already know about 50-50 salt and you're not too sensitive to potassium, but it's a great way to start. It's not overall that much MSG, but just, you know, be careful with it anyways, especially if you're sensitive to potassium too. So it could potentially help with that potassium, that the copper is, you know, high copper could possibly be causing a problem with and blocking potassium channels. And then where to get it to, what we like the original Japanese company. It's very clean stuff, and they provide certificates of analysis and everything, and they have very high quality. So we're going to go with that every time. What I like about this, I love just, secret hidden things like this that are inexpensive and that can really help you. I think, flush niacin is one of those things. It's relatively inexpensive and can really help you. And this one is pretty inexpensive as well and can help you so much. And, who'd have thought that something that they were trying to demonize would actually be good for you like this.
Well, Kelsey, before you do that testimonial,
what
Kelsey,
else do I have to say
before
about that?
before you do the testimonial, let me just summarize. I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, I want it all put together on how to take it. So, okay, first, if you want to go out and get some MSG today, just go to your Asian market, your local Asian market, and you're looking for Aji no Moto, and it's like $4 a pound. This is going to be the cheapest like nutritional supplement you're ever going to buy. So if like I looked on Amazon a while back, who knows about the whole inflation thing, but it was $6 on Amazon. It was $4 at my local Korean market. So it's probably cheaper to buy it in town. And then, so what you're going to do if you're going to start using it, if you want to be cautious, which if you're sensitive out there, you're a sensitive person, just like a sprinkle, like a little sprinkle, not like you're trying to season your food. You're just putting a little bit in there. You're just seeing if everything goes okay. If you do get a little symptom, like a little headache, this doesn't mean that it's bad for you. It means what Kelsey was saying, and you just do less, but keep doing it, and that will go away. She's about to read a testimonial about that going away. Now, if you decide you want to do this, first of all, you take it with food. Do not take it on an empty stomach. If you take it on an empty stomach and you come back and you're like, I didn't feel good when I took it. Everyone in the research on MSG says, don't take it on an empty stomach. That doesn't make any natural sense, and don't do it. When I first started this, I'm going to admit it. When I first started this, I remember messaging Kelsey about it. I took like a teaspoon worth of MSG and some in my like detox sludge and with other stuff, and I got like a head rush. I had a head rush, and I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. This is and then I remember reading what Kelsey said about
it's all that increased energy.
Yeah. And so I remember what Kelsey said about taking it with food. I remember Mike Roberto in his early research, he was like, take it with food, take it with protein food. Okay. So if you're not eating, if you were just eating an apple, that's not a great time if you're going to take your MSG. Probably you're not going to want to put MSG on your apple, but also if you wanted to take like a teaspoon of it or more, don't do it with the apple. Do it with another meal that has protein in it. Think of it as it's going to boost the protein's ability to help you. This, for those of you who are into athletics and sports, I think this is going to, that's an interesting comment from, I don't even know how to say your name, Daku. He's saying MSG is a poison. Anyway, you've said some interesting things about your health and you've had trouble getting your health back. So I'm going to say, maybe I'm not going to take your advice. Go ahead and say what you want to say, but maybe not. So I've tried to help you multiple times and you haven't done anything I've said. So we'll just leave that there. Do it with, MSG. Okay. I did a whole video on the Indian diet and how bad the Indian diet is for people. So if you go and you add MSG to the Indian diet, hey, what are we saying? MSG plus shit food makes for sick people. This is what I'm saying. So we can put those two things together right now and say, yeah, MSG with toxins is more toxic. Isn't that what we said? So, not going to give that comment much more energy. Okay, so just take it with protein food, good food. Don't take it with a ton of fat. Like, we shouldn't be doing tons of fat anyway. And then just start slow. And then if you decide to, what we found as kind of the upper limit of like where diminishing returns happens is like 2 or 3 teaspoons total a day. You can spread it out. You probably should spread out. If you're doing that much, you should probably spread it into like 2 doses. Okay. But that's kind of where we found people saying, yeah, I went above that and I didn't really get any further. So I just came back down to that. But that's people who are doing high dose. As you saw, Wardy's doing a 1/4 teaspoon a day total. Megan was saying her daughter was getting benefits from sprinkling it on. So and I think Beth Martin was doing like 2 pinches a day, whether it was a 1/4 teaspoon or 1/8 of a teaspoon or whatever. But so some people are doing really well with small doses or just food. Some people are doing better with bigger doses. Okay. So that's what we don't know your dose. So if you say, how much should I use a day? We never can give you that answer. This is what we do here. We help people to find out how to fix their own health by telling them what to look for. If you are doing MSG and you're noticing you're fine or you feel better, okay, you can go up to like 2 or 3 teaspoons a day. Okay. So Kelsey, why don't you do that testimonial now? I just wanted to make sure that those basics were all kind of put together there.
Okay. Yeah. So somebody's, first of all, I'd like to address Susan. They actually do make it in Japan as well, and Brazil too. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know about the other suppliers of it, but they all have certificates of analysis. So, if Ajinomoto is having other people make it, they're still, making sure there's quality control, and they're testing it too. Okay, so okay, here's another testimony. Okay, I started MSG about 3 months ago. It didn't come without side effects. Okay, so there can be some detox reactions. Okay, so possibly more detox enzymes. There's more energy for detox too, just with feeding that cycle, and then feeding the enterocytes and the hepatocytes, so the gut cells and the liver cells, basically. Yes, there can be some detox. It was a bad headache initially, but not like a normal bile dump headache, because it's protecting you also against some of the toxins. I remember sticking through it for almost a week until it started to subside. I know it goes against the rule of doc, it hurts when I do this, then don't do that. However, this kind of headache was new. I don't have a better way of explaining why I continued other than it sucked, but differently. The best part, skipping all the roller coaster details, would be that I can now take Keystone Minerals daily without any noticeable side effects. So Wardy noticed better zinc tolerance, and so did I too. I can tolerate zinc better. And we had another testimonial previously where somebody's zinc went up, probably from their food or their utilization of it, without even supplementing zinc, and it lowered their copper too as well.
Let me add something. Let me add something. Sorry, my camera didn't follow me. I was able to reduce. I was taking 2 Keystone Minerals for a long time, based on testing to keep my levels up, and I tested again, and I went down to 1 Keystone Minerals, and I've been good since. So I was able to cut my Keystone in half from the high dose down to the lower dose. So I just wanted to add that too. So I'm another person like. Folks, you may actually be able to increase some of your supplements, but you may be able to reduce a lot of your other supplements. And I make supplements, so it's kind of weird that I would be doing that to myself, right? Unless I was a really honest person who was really just after people getting better, buying a $4 bag of MSG and improving your health like the people in these testimonials have. So anyway, Kelsey, keep going.
Oh, okay. Just addressing Daku again. He's acting up. Okay, so where were we? Okay, my biggest issue was moving copper and the incredible sleepiness it caused. So for me too is when you're taking zinc, it can cause some increased sleepiness because it's increasing your detox. So that can do it, and you're putting more energy into detox. And then it's also, possibly stirring up copper, or protecting against copper, and copper is, stimulatory in most cases too. So coming off of that may increase it. There's some other reasons I'm investigating why it makes you tired, but it doesn't matter. That's, that's just the details. It helps with zinc tolerance, so you can finally address that and get enough zinc and tolerate it better without the sleepy. Okay, so help me tolerate Keystone Minerals. It's different from anything I've ever tried except aluminum chelation strategies. It's close but not the same in terms of headache. I had a pretty acute case of IIH, idiopathic intracranial hypertension. That was self-recognized. So what is vitamin A noticed to cause in a lot of people? Depression and intracranial hypertension, right? So it's helping with the vitamin A detox as well, probably by, again, this is mechanism, but probably through, increased energy for detox and glutathione to mop up the damage. And then also, balancing the water balance in your brain can cause, you have more fluid for your brain to float, because your brain needs to float. But I guess the focal point was different somehow. Oh, I used to play musical chairs with my glasses, first with 3 pairs, then down to 2. And now I can wear the same pair all day without having to switch out. No more eye fatigue. So how is it like excitotoxic if it's literally repairing people's vision and causing their vision to be more adaptable and clearer? In fact, it's been several days since I switched. The roller coaster of sleep disturbance is worth emphasizing. We struggled before because of the disruption in sleep we would cause each other. Both of us are now, when we do sleep, getting much better uninterrupted sleep. His partner has been getting a solid sleep up at 6 to 7 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so that was some anonymous friends of mine. Thank you very much for their contribution. Yeah.
Okay, so I got one more testimonial. So Mike Roberto he's big in the supplement industry, priceplow.com. And we talked to him about MSG. He's a buddy of mine now, and he decided to go on it. And so what he typed out here in his testimonial was his research. So this is kind of his story where he kind of went down the same rabbit holes that we did. So some of this is going to sound like a rehash, because when people go and look at the research on MSG, you see that it's garbage. You see that it's like a smear campaign. It's absolutely a smear campaign. So here we go. Hey everyone, this is Mike Roberto, a vitamin A disrespecter since January 2023. Well, Kelsey and Dr. Smith did it again, finding another nutrition gem in the sea of fraud and con artistry that we've been subjected to our whole lives. When they first mentioned MSG to me, I went down the rabbit hole and quickly saw just how ridiculous and stupid the whole fear campaign against it has been. It's actually hilarious when you look at it from a modern lens. It all began in the late 1960s when scientists tried connecting Chinese food consumption with symptoms like headache, numbness, tingling, flushing, and generalized weakness. They called it Chinese restaurant syndrome, or they even gave it an abbreviation, CRS, which should be your first warning that something preposterous is coming. Then, very conveniently, some studies on injected ultra-high dose MSG were published showing brain lesions in newborn mice. The rest is history, nonstop fear over this very simple molecule, at least until now. At this point, anyone listening to this live stream should know that when the so-called authorities start making up absurd disease names like Chinese restaurant syndrome, they're full of total horseshit. Back before the internet, they could get away with it more easily. But now that we can find real data, we can see it for what it is. Yet another lie in an endless stream of deception. Yeah. Okay. First, it turns out that adding MSG to food, it isn't at all unsafe. Even taking ridiculously high amounts of it orally doesn't lead to brain lesions or anything akin to Chinese restaurant syndrome, whatever that's supposed to be. But second, and more importantly, MSG may even be beneficial. The body craves this stuff, and not in a drug-like fashion. If you add MSG to salt, you get a more pleasant umami flavor, but you also get improved satisfaction. This is true. The body seems to crave this stuff when you haven't gotten much. Yet if you use too much, your body will not enjoy it, kind of like sodium itself, which is that study that I showed about how as people get more of it, they don't want it as much. Anyone who follows him on Twitter at Mike Roberto, I highly suggest following him if you're on Twitter, has probably seen me ragging on America's addiction to dairy and cheese. I'm now very confident that a major reason why we collectively have this addiction is because dairy, especially cheese, brings a lot of this umami sensation. Yes, there are opiates, the casomorphins and stuff like that in opioids in milk, but I think glutamate is what the body is ultimately seeking. Asian cultures don't have this dairy addiction. Good point. And a lot of that is because they won't let go of their precious MSG. They also get their umami from fermented foods that we don't eat. They also have great cardiovascular outcomes, and this could be one reason why. There's also that hair pattern recognition that we noticed. I now regularly add MSG to protein foods and prefer it in a conservative 1 to 6 MSG to salt ratio. Too much more, and it's a bit strong for me personally. When I do this, there's far less craving for dairy in the house. So he's saying he's seasoning his family's food with it, And everybody's eating less dairy. Everybody wants less dairy. And when I use it consistently, I notice body composition and overall mood improvements too, just greater satisfaction and warmth in life. So neurotoxic. There's a lot more to this, but long story short, this stuff is not to be feared, and anyone who's having trouble limiting their dairy needs to give MSG a go. Thanks again to Dr. Smith and Kelsey for finding what could be a missing piece of the nutrition puzzle. What a fun ride this has been. I'll be updating my blood work soon and look forward to seeing where things are. Mike Roberto. So thank you for that, Mike. We, over the last couple of weeks, I hope you guys can see what Kelsey and I put into this live stream in terms of all the research that we've been putting in, and we got all those testimonials, and we even almost everybody was okay with us using their name, because this was this was not a medical thing. This was not like treating clients. This was like, hey, you're a buddy of mine. You want to try this with us. And that's what they did. We had group chats going with Wardy and Megan, so they could tell us, so they could give us like live feedback as to what was going on. Joe did it too. I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. Gabe did it too. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But yeah, so we got all these testimonials because we had to try it first ourselves, and I was just going, this is crazy. Like I can't imagine this. It's like the best if you guys are into lifting and fitness and stuff like that, or if you just want to be in a little better shape. MSG plus good food. So stop with like, can I eat Chinese food again? You can eat Chinese food anytime you want. There's good Chinese food and there's not so good Chinese food, right? You can eat, there's crap Italian food and there's like actually potentially healthy Italian food. It's probably not in America though. So you can don't eat crap food. This is always the rule. Like flush niacin and MSG are really strong at detoxing. You do not want to be intoxing while you're taking these detox agents. So this is going to be the confusion that people are going to have. If you think that you can just go eat crap food and take MSG and it's going to like fix you, go away. You don't belong here. This is not for people who think like that. Okay? This is a nutrient, as they said in that paper. It's sodium and an amino acid, just like magnesium glycinate or zinc picolinate or selenomethionine, selenium and methionine. It's a mineral bound to an amino acid. So the fact that people could think this is bad for you is kind of ludicrous. And I bought into it for a long time myself. I can't, just like I did with the niacin thing. And then Kelsey educated me on that. And then she found this. So if you go out there and you try MSG and you find it to be helpful for your health and you do it in the way that we are suggesting, well, you have another big thank you for Kelsey since she figured this out. And and I will tell you this, if you're ever having bleeding problems, I used this on a person I knew who understood the MSG thing. They had a bleeding issue when they were out and about, and I told them there was a Chinese restaurant near them, and I said, go get like a bunch of packets of soy sauce and just drink them. They did. It stopped the bleeding. Their bleeding wasn't stopping. It was a problem, and it helped. So yeah, if you've got bleeding issues of any type, even the bruising that we used to think was mainly vitamin K deficiency, or you have really heavy periods, try this out, really. And if you're a guy who just wants to get jacked, then yeah, it might help you too. Or if you just want to feel better, this is serious. So again, don't confuse people eating shit food with MSG things in it to people eating healthy foods with MSG added, pure MSG added. They're totally different animals, and don't claim one is the other. Okay, so that's Kelsey. Do you have anything else to add before I wrap up this whole thing?
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, there's, lately there's been a lot of talk against glutamate too, and we have to stop the glutamate signaling, and glutamate is neurotoxic. And Mike Adams is saying that, oh my gosh, don't get me started on him, but he's saying that methylene blue can help protect you against glutamate toxicity. Okay, so an industrial blue dye is better than what your own body is trying to do, because that's what it's trying to do when it's trying to make more glutamate. And when it's so desperate for glutamate, it has to up those liver enzymes to literally make more glutamate. It's already what it's trying to do. And then when it feeds the cleanup crew of the body, like with the white blood cells and the macrophages that eat all the toxins and debris, like we're just supporting that. We're just adding enough, and some people need more, but we're just adding enough to turn the tide to release the pressure valve and the cost of making more glutamate, which the body wants to do. So we're encouraging that, not trying to stop it with like drugs like memantine and ketamine. The ketamine's becoming a thing now that claim it's good for you, and like mushroom extract that make things weird about signaling and everything, and NDMA receptor antagonism, blah blah blah. The body's already trying to put more glutamate out there. Let's just help it, and it's conserved throughout the kingdoms, from bacteria to plants to us, to animals also. We're just trying to help that and not stop it. That's the only thing. Yes, Mike Adams is a dispensary of toxic supplements. He sure is, and he says zeolite is bad too, and he says chlorella is really great. Oh, that has a bunch of carotenoids in it. So yeah, that it can really help, and maybe I can talk about this in the next one, more of the chemistry and why it helps why it really helps with heavy metal detox and the zinc to copper ratio. I'd like to do that next time. So that's about all I have to say for that, is that, yeah, we probably do have a little bit, people have a glutamate deficiency because it's just being prioritized. It's being triaged to the gut and the liver. And people do have one. And when they take people's blood, actually the glutamine actually turns into a different metabolite. So the amount of deficit can be underestimated, whereas the glutamate is more stable. So there can be an underestimate of a glutamate deficiency. So when people say, well, nobody has a glutamate deficiency, it's so abundant. Oh, another thing, I'm sorry, getting excited. Glufosinate. Okay, so that people have heard of people have heard of glyphosate, right? That's a glycine analog that is toxic, and we all know how bad that is. That's horrible. It can substitute for glycine in your nervous system and everything like that. What I didn't know before I started all this investigation is that there is a similar equivalent that works in the same way. It also has the phosphate on it, called glufosinate, and it's also used to dry out crops. It basically prevents ammonia excretion in plants, and our enzyme is basically the same as a plant's. It's so conserved for your body to do this to help keep extra ammonia out of you, because ammonia is really toxic. That it can really increase your ammonia production if you get a certain amount of this in your body. And it's rising as glyphosate kind of slows down because it's not as popular. These GMO varieties that can be tolerant to glufosinate are starting to come up, or ones that are tolerant to both of them even. Or if you have glyphosate resistant corn, what are you going to dry it with, right? Oh, you're going to put the glufosinate on there to dry it. So now you've got both. You've got something that messes up the glutamate in your body and replaces it, and you've got something that messes up the glutamate even worse, which can be even worse because our enzymes that are very similar to that of plants too. So you can have even more of a toxic effect from even lower doses, and it's even less biodegradable than glyphosate. Like the glufosinate is lipophilic as well too. So it's a much dangerous one, and it's growing rapidly too. So it's another one to look out for, and it's another reason why we might actually have a glutamate deficiency that's not seen.
Oh, very interesting. So as Kelsey was saying, as I was kind of saying, Kelsey had tons of stuff. Like I left out a lot of stuff today. Kelsey has tons of stuff about a little more, little geekier connections, than I like to get into. I like to keep it kind of upper level, and she wanted to get a little geekier. So what we'll do is in the future, not next week, but in the future, we'll probably do a second episode on glutamates and how they what they help with in the body, their relationships to ammonia and all these other things. So we will get into that soon. I think we're going to wrap it up now then. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. I know many of you are going to enjoy your food more after watching this. Many of you will probably feel better and in all sorts of ways, and maybe even start enjoying life more in multiple ways. So
yeah,
Joe, we're just going to wrap up with all the links.
you'll
now.
enjoy your prison swap.
Yes, your prison,
your
our
cowboy
prison
diet
swap.
or your.
It really, like, I mean, I'm
Prisons.
actually trying this now. I'm trying to do what my friend said. The seasoning food only with MSG. I'm trying that out because I tolerate it really well. And I did it just earlier, and I'm trying it again. So we're just going to see if I can do that. Because one of the things, just another aside, like when we had the calcium episode, sodium is kind of antagonistic to calcium. Too much sodium in your diet can deplete calcium from your diet. Okay. Well, MSG is like 3 times less sodium per gram than salt is. So the more you can replace your table salt with MSG, you're still getting some sodium, but nowhere near as much. And your food tastes better. And my son was like, why would you want to put more MSG on your food? It just makes the food taste more like the food. And I was like, that's the point. So anyway, so Joe, let's hit those. Oh, there was that super chat. Sergio says, thank you, docs. You guys are the only MVP with 3 hearts. Thank you for that. Sheila was asking, Kelsey, does it help with diverticulosis? Well, let me add one thing about diverticulosis. The guy who started the nightshade, the kind of no nightshade in this movement, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head. But Childers. He used to help people fix diverticulosis with just avoiding nightshades. This was like back in the 60s or something, or maybe 70s. But he just got people off nightshades, and that would fix it for the most part. Now, I'm not saying that happens these days because people are a lot more jacked up than they used to be. But so if you're eating nightshades, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant, tobacco, goji berries, if you're following anything from that guy called Artis, just stop. Just stop. He is such a plant by the tobacco industry to scare people into they're going to ban tobacco or nicotine. And it's like, sure, dude. Nobody else has talked about banning nicotine. Nobody's talking about that. You just made that up. Like, give me a break. So anyway, don't go and eat more nightshades for the nicotine, please. Save yourself that health damage. But yeah, goji berries and tobacco and all that stuff. Avoid, if you need to look them up, just look up nightshade plants and don't eat those. Don't smoke them either. So I forgot to say super chat. So thank you for the super chat, Sergio. Kelsey, do you want to say anything about MSG and diverticulosis?
It's hard to say. I haven't looked at that particular condition, but we do know that it feeds the gut cells. So diverticulosis or itis is the acute form, is when pockets kind of grow out and then get stuck with these things called fecalist. So it's a little bit of like poopy material stuck in there, and that's why they're kind of hard to get out. So that would probably be the difficulty there, and especially getting nutrients down in the gut where those tend to hang out. So it may take a while to get to that point where it could help, but we do know that it does help in acid reflux, ulcers as well. Repairing the gut lining too. Also properly digesting the proteins so the bad bacteria aren't using them later and causing more ammonia production and everything, which can make you feel bad and inflame the gut some more. So potentially, I just can't say for sure. And then you also have the issue with the they already might be compacted or infected with some dry fecal matter too, which can probably slow things down as well.
Joe, can you show my screen real quick? So this was I was just searching while Kelsey was talking. They're granting European patents for the use of pharmaceutical grade L-glutamine for treating diverticulosis. So what is the body turning a lot of the glutamine into? Glutamate. So it's an indirect way of feeding the body a glutamate source. We do still need glutamine for specific purposes. I'm not saying glutamine is not important and that it only turns into glutamate, but a lot of these approaches, just think if they started treating things with glutamate, then all of a sudden people would be like, but wait, why is MSG bad? If you're going to treat things with glutamate, why is MSG bad? So they have to work around it. They can't give you the exact thing, because then people start asking questions like we're doing right now. So anyway, Achillia, thank you for the super chat. It was just a 10, as I'm assuming you mean 10 out of 10. So thank you for that compliment, and thank you for the super chat. So I just want to say I'm glad that I thought today was going to last like 4 hours when I looked at that outline. So I'm really glad that we're only at like 2 hours and 40 minutes, even though we started a half hour late. Sorry about that. Everybody who was waiting for us, thank you for your patience. We really appreciate it. We had to figure out Kelsey's, on the stream and all that stuff. So again, Joe, let's start running the links and all that stuff. So we got nutritiondetective.com. That's where you can find the consultations with like a health facilitator like Kelsey or Nathan. That's where you can find our supplements. And Kelsey is along with me, Kelsey is our head formulator. And we're working on really cool stuff coming out now. And then we have also the Love Your Liver program is there under the membership tab. So if you wanted to schedule a consultation, that was the link Joe just had up. The Love Your Liver program. You can find it at the membership tab on our main website, or you can go to members.nutritiondetective.com. What else do we got, Joe? We got past live streams. So if you want to watch our past live streams, we are now on episode 212. So there's 211 more. If you can't find any of them, here's what you do. When you're on the YouTube page, you're either going to go to the live tab or you're going to go to the videos tab. So if you can't find it in the live tab, it's in the videos tab. And if you can't find it on YouTube, it's on our Rumble channel, because one video, YouTube no like it. And so it doesn't live on YouTube anymore. It only lives on Rumble. We said some things the Gestapo did not care for. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at NutriDetect, NutriDetect. I do want to write a thread. I do think I'm going to get a very, very cool, good thread on Twitter out of this episode. I'm going to have to trim it down a bit though. And then, so that's, I think that's where we got. 53 and 71. This is the basics of toxic bile paradigm. We now it used to be called toxic bile theory. Now we call it toxic bile paradigm. That is the thinking process behind all of the things we do here, and how we are, if we can stop poisoning ourselves, then we can stop poisoning ourselves with our own bile, which is the liver's poop. It's a complicated explanation, but it all makes sense when you go through it. Madness of Modern Nutrition is our free email course. You can go to that website to sign up, or you can sign up from our main website. And then what else do we got, Joe? I think we're almost done. Oh, my old blog forum. This is my old forum where it was mainly me posting to myself, writing all the early articles about vitamin A toxicity. And we have testimonials there from years ago and all that. Then, the glass abstract. So if you want to look, so the links that you saw today in the pages you saw today with the highlights on them, if you wanted to see those papers, I mean, first of all, they're in that Google Doc. Second, if you go to that glass link, all of the papers, like if you want to search for all of the studies that I have gone over in these live streams from when I started using it, it has all the highlights. So if you search for glutamate in there, you could find it in any of the papers that we have looked at. And you can see all the things I highlighted on the various papers. So that's kind of fun. And then if you look down below, if you want to look at any of the newer live streams, there's a link to a search engine that somebody made where you can go through the transcripts. It'll search the transcripts of all my live streams for certain terms. So if you wanted to look up a certain term, just look down in the info box to find that search engine. And yes, this was Love Your Liver live stream number 212. MSG is good for you when it is used right. And I look forward to hearing lots of great testimonials and people getting better from a $4 bag sold at the Asian market. And especially if you're out. So actually, wait, I didn't read that one from Katie. Joe put it up. Katie posted in the live chat, I'm Asian and my vision got better when I stopped eating eggs and learning about vitamin A toxicity from you guys. I'm getting back into MSG after years of avoiding it. Yes, enjoy. If you are Asian and you quit MSG, and you're wondering why your health is more like crappy American health than it might be for your family back home, it could just be because you came to America and you got scared of MSG and you stopped using it and your body really, really needed it. So if you have slow ALDH, if you're one of the 50% of Asians, 1 out of every 2 who has slow ALDH genetically, you really will probably do way better getting that glutamate back into your life. So enjoy that I gave that back to you. I didn't give it back to you. You know what I mean? I gave you permission to use it again with evidence, with research evidence. So thanks, Kelsey, for joining us.
And nobody could say that nobody could say that we're trying to make money off of this, because
we don't have an MSG supplement in the works. Not yet.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So thank you, Sergio, for saying that, because this is like truly a gift from my heart and my research and my brain, and a long time coming. And, and both Dr. Smith and I were willing to kind of risk our reputations on this, because it is so good and so important. And, there's nothing to be gained from it, but better health, and my health and your health and everything else. So thank you for keeping an open mind today and listening to our pitch, basically. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to wrap it up again. Thanks to Joe for, helping in the background and his testimonial. And thank you to Kelsey for discovering this and working with me on this presentation. Sorry, we had to push it back a couple of days. I heard that one person actually, took off work on Tuesday to watch it because they thought it was so important. So I want to say thank you. I really appreciate how important that was to you to do that. I'm very sorry that we had to move it. We just weren't ready on that day. So I just pushed it back a couple of days, which, I normally don't do, but we wanted to get this thing right. And I think we did. So like I said, we'll do another more geeked out episode on glutamates with Kelsey soon. And otherwise, we'll see you next week for the episode with Wardy joining us about the traditional cooking school. And then I don't know what we're going to do the week after that. So, Kelsey,
live demonstration next time.
Hold on. You want to do that next time? No,
I'll show you next time. No, okay. I can do it again. No, it's cool. This is copper, by the way.
Copper glutamate, right?
All right. Join us next time.
Join us next time. Okay. We will see you all next time. Have a great week. Bye now.